Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sleepless Cinematic Podcast, where we explore our shared love for watching and discussing movies recorded in the late after-work hours, often in lieu of a good night's rest. I'm Julian.
I'm Madeline.
And I'm Emilio. The three of us are colleagues at a Midtown Manhattan music school. Yup, music, that is what brings us together. But movies, that's what keeps us together, talking at the end of the night. So we've created some order to this ongoing trend by recording these conversations, considering an overarching theme while we cycle through 5 unique guidelines for engagement.
You can email us at sleeplesscinematicpod@gmail.com. Seriously, we would love to hear from you. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok for updates, highlights, clips, and other visual supplements to the audio we record at Sleepless Cinematic Pod.
In addition to these main episodes, we record and release bonus one-off episodes as we see fit. And while we do this, you, the listener, can count on the three of us doing what we've grown to love, forgoing sleep for a discussion about movies every other week.
And this week, we continue our current cycle of Oscar-worthy rom-coms with a category we call Two Shot, where we focus on 2 movies with some striking commonalities, some obvious, some not so obvious, and discuss their themes, characters, and other salient details that stood out to us. And this time, one of those is the 1953 film Roman Holiday, directed by William Wyler and starring Gregory Peck and Audrey Hepburn in career-making roles.
And the other side of that pair is Pretty Woman from 1990, directed by Garry Marshall, starring Julia Roberts and Richard Gere. And the three of us have a special guest joining us today. She is a comedian, an actor, an improviser, a writer, an impressionist, and now a professional ice cream eater. She can be seen on stage as part of the Maud and Betty House teams at UCB New York and on screen in the new season of Nick Cannon's Wild and Out. The last time she was here, I mentioned her incredible one-woman show, ACAB, Angry, Crazy, and Black. And since that recording, I was able to get Julian to join me in the audience. A true triple, quadruple, quintuple threat. Please welcome back to the podcast, Sydney Duncan.
Oh my gosh, what a beautiful intro.
Thank you.
Back.
Yes,
also,
welcome.
it's a lie. I did not eat any of the ice cream.
Well, good, because I hear you're not a fan of chocolate.
I hate chocolate. I did probably 100 odd spit takes. I had a bucket and I'd be like, yum, 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 yum. And then just...
Well, because you are a phenomenal actor and you
I was
can't,
gonna
you
say the
can't
power
tell
of
at
acting.
all.
Yes, yeah. Everyone's like, wow, you're like a really good actor. I was like, I think I just wanted to chew fast enough to just get it done with.
And it looks like someone's really enjoying some ice cream, but really you're like, how fast can I get this out of my mouth?
Yes, truly every bite was like, my whole body was like, what is in there?
abort. No,
Yes,
I'm getting
yeah.
paid for this.
Yeah.
Hang in there.
And you even had to say when I got the commercial, they were like, oh, and like before you submit, like, are you okay with eating chocolate and dairy? And I was like,
You're like,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I love chocolate.
yeah, with commercials, it's like, I'm not going to say no. Like I'll
why would
figure
you
it out.
submit and be like, no, I draw the line
Actually,
at chocolate
sorry.
Haagen-Dazs?
Right.
Oh, that's what you're doing? You're going to have to find someone else.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was more so it's like I never book, so I'll say yes to everything.
Yeah, of
and then the
Right.
one thing that I get is my worst nightmare. So yeah, and then at the end of the shoot, they're like, you did so great. I was like, I have to tell y'all I hate chocolate with every fiber of my being, but I'll do it again tomorrow.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
If you
good.
the
cut
check
me a large
clears-
enough check.
Yes.
It's-
Yeah.
Roll them cameras.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
a dislike as opposed to like an allergy or something like that.
Yes, that would have been bad if I was like, yeah, I'm not definitely allergic to nuts, and then you're just
Then you
eating.
just dropped.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. For a
That's
commercial,
a line
no.
to draw right
Yeah,
there.
That's the line.
You probably shouldn't submit at that point.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, because I have to think of that as someone who has an allergy to a pretty common fruit.
Yeah. Julian's allergic to citrus.
Yeah.
Oh no!
Yeah. I mean,
I
I
love
manage.
citrus,
Yeah.
lemon, like because I'm not a chocolate girly.
Yeah.
I love citrus, like gummy bears. You probably can't do any of that.
Yeah. It's more like with artificial flavoring, it's
You
more
can
like,
kind of get away.
well, I don't want to, but it's
Yeah.
more like
You don't
unpleasant.
have the averse reaction.
It's unpleasant as opposed to like physically revolting in
yes,
the same way.
yeah. Oh,
Got
you
it.
can't have key lime pie.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
But it's the thing when you have an allergy like this is that you don't think
You don't
of-
want it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
like not
yeah.
interested.
Your brain's like, I don't want to die. So
Right.
yeah.
It's like, I don't think that I'm missing out.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
it's just like more for you guys.
More for y'all. I'll have the so you'll have the chocolate, the 100 chocolate bars I bit into, and I'll have a piece of key lime pie.
Spot on.
Sydney, it's great having you back, though.
Yay, happy to be here. Woo.
Yes. Well, as was discussed, the first movie that we're going to be talking about here in this pair is Roman Holiday. And we should say that Though both films feature a woman experiencing an awakening of sorts against the backdrop of Italian splendor. Roman Holiday is not to be confused with Under the Tuscan Sun.
I knew someone was going to say this.
Which is the 2003 romantic comedy, dramedy of sorts, starring Diane Lane. I saw this movie in bits and pieces. This is a video store era movie for me. I will say, just for my sensibilities, like kind of forgettable, but I know this movie has its fans. So not to be confused with Roman Holiday.
And
Cool.
I feel like there's a whole genre of these movies where like a woman is shown around a European city, an Italian city, and shown like, you know, what life could be like if she was a completely different person. And so also Roman Holiday is not to be confused with the Lizzie McGuire movie.
That's what I was thinking. I literally was thinking the Lizzie McGuire movie. I was
Absolutely.
like, girl, but also she was 14.
That too. She was so young. And I watched that trailer recently, and I was like, she does like read older than middle school. Hilary Duff does at the time, but Lizzie McGuire is literally like 8th grade graduation.
Yeah, 8th grade
Here is
graduation.
like an adult man, presumably.
It's like 18 or 19 or whatever it is. It's like, what are you doing?
That's crazy.
14-year-old running around Italy, like, and then becoming a pop star.
And all of us middle school girls
We're like,
yes,
yeah,
totally.
let's do it. I can't wait to go to Europe and do the same thing.
Lizzie McGuire, that was like a little bit before my time.
Yeah, you were a little young for that.
Yeah.
Whereas it was like
that
right
was
in the sweet spot for
a little
mine
way
and
past
Sydney's
my
age.
time on that one. But I remember when that movie came out.
That was a big
deal.
one for me at 10
Big
or 11.
I understand.
I have failed for the last 2 days to get pre-sale tickets to the Hilary Duff tour. I'm trying again tomorrow.
Oh, yes, I forgot. She's over in Brooklyn, right?
She's going to be at the Garden. She did a show in Brooklyn
Lizzie
a few
McGuire
months
is at
ago.
the Garden?
Yeah.
Oh
so
my
she has 2
gosh.
nights at the Garden. I
Wow.
have woken up for the last 2 days to try to get pre-sale tickets.
Good for you.
And I have failed both
Committed.
times. I've got the pre-sale code for tomorrow, trying again.
Yeah.
General sales on Friday. I am going to get those tickets.
Yeah, I'm going to go see Olivia Dean
Yeah.
and or Ariana Grande, but I heard Ariana Grande's tickets are crazy.
I'm sure they are.
And sold out, so we'll see.
It's also like the first thing I've heard about Hilary Duff in like maybe 20 years.
Well, she's got an album coming out this Friday.
Oh, wow.
Whoa. All
Yeah.
right. Oh, so yeah, the concert
Yeah.
pairing. All right. I
Yeah,
see.
world
I see what's going on.
tour.
They're in
Okay.
concert.
Yeah.
They're in concert, yeah.
Yes. But getting back to Roman Holiday, while this is a movie that focuses on a figure of royalty named Anne and was nominated and won some Oscars, Roman Holiday is not to be confused with Anne of a Thousand Days.
Oh, yes.
Which is a film from 1969 that I have not seen. I would imagine that most of us, maybe all of us, have not seen it.
I've seen this
It
movie.
sounds
you've
like
seen it.
you've seen it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have.
But it's a movie that was nominated for Best Picture that year and notably lost to Midnight Cowboy,
Mhm.
which
Oh,
won
I love Midnight
after
Cowboy.
changes in the voting body of the Academy were made by then President Gregory Peck.
There we
Oh,
go.
right.
Yeah.
We
Big
talked about
connection
that
here.
on our Midnight Cowboy episode.
That's
Yeah.
So
right.
Gregory Peck changed the way they vote?
Or he helped to do it.
He helped usher in that era.
Yeah,
Like
he
kind of
heralded the
the new
change.
generation of
Oh, okay.
voters at that time.
Yeah, there were a bunch of. I mean, like Candace Bergen actually was a pretty instrumental figure in campaigning for this change. There were a bunch of actors who were also brought in, like some of the people from Midnight Cowboy, like Dustin Hoffman, I think John Voight, but also like, well, last time we had you with us, Sydney, was one of the actors who came up in that episode. Robert Forster, he was another one who was included in the Academy in that that kind of wave of new entrants.
Mhm.
And Anne of a Thousand Days, this is a movie about Anne Boleyn, real historical figure, not the fictional Princess Anne
That's
of
true.
Roman Holiday, and therefore not to be confused with Roman Holiday.
There we go.
Truly, the only thing I can think about is how much my brother loves Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah.
That's like one of his favorite actresses. He has like the Breakfast at Tiffany's poster. He loves just like the energy that she brings to her films and the sophistication and the
Yeah.
fashion and all of that. And he's definitely the fashionable one of our family. And I thought about that when I was rewatching it. I was like, oh, let me try to see it through my brother's eyes of like
Yeah.
how he loves her so much. But his favorite is definitely Breakfast at Tiffany's. But I was thinking about all that. No, it's such a simplistic and beautiful movie. So I can't wait to hear what you guys think. And I love how if that script was brought today, it wouldn't. I don't know if it would get greenlit just because it's like it's almost too simple.
Yeah, there's a simplicity to the way the story develops.
Yeah,
I think.
and I think it works, and it's sad that we can't be that simple anymore. It has to be like, oh, the writing and this and that. It's like, oh, what if they just go on an adventure and they look longingly at each other and go their separate ways, and it can be that beautiful.
Yeah.
Totally.
There's a moment kind of in the middle where I feel like this movie does get a little complicated.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Irving thinks he is watching a movie from 2025.
He's in a different movie.
He's in a different movie.
He's in a different movie. Yeah.
But I know what you mean.
Yeah.
That there is a simplicity at the core of this movie. I think it's one of the reasons why this movie has
like stood the test.
Stood the
of time.
test of
Yeah.
time. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I sort of think that one of the only sets of movies that kind of start with something so simple and are able to get something so rich about it is a movie or a series of movies that I think are very appropriate to talk about in relation to Roman Holiday, which is Richard Linklater's Before trilogy.
Yeah. I totally
There's a
agree.
little bit of that, yeah.
I see that for sure. They're also, those famously take place in pretty short amounts of time. This is also a movie that mostly takes place over the course of one day.
All in European cities too.
Exactly.
There we go.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about how simple this story is. Let's get the simple things out there up front. What is this about?
Well, Audrey Hepburn, lovely lady that she is, plays Anne, a crown princess of an unnamed European country who has stopped in Rome as part of a goodwill tour across the continent. But royal life is starting to wear on Anne as she has every decision in her life made for her and every minute of every day accounted for. After going into hysterics at her staff and being given a delayed reaction sedative, she spontaneously sneaks away from her country's embassy and ends up impaired and half asleep on the streets of Rome. It is here.
Yeah, we couldn't do that this.
Yeah. No.
Exactly. It is here that she meets Joe Bradley, an American reporter who does not recognize her at first as the princess, but takes her in for the evening to save her from a night on the street or in prison. In the morning, he discovers Anne's identity and formulates a plan for his return to the States. He'll treat Anne to a day in Rome, lowering her guard and using the opportunity to get an exclusive scoop on her life and the desires of the princess. He enlists his photographer friend Irving as their paparazzo, and the three of them hit the town. However, as Joe and Anne grow closer and a romantic spark forms, he may begin to reconsider his $5,000 story.
There we go. I love how there's money
Yeah.
In both of these movies that we're gonna
movies.
talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Almost the same amount, but obviously very different, decades apart.
I
But
definitely want to talk about
Yeah.
what inflation does
Yeah.
to the read of
Yes.
both of these amounts.
What is
Something-
$5,000 now? Like $5,000 from 1953? What is that now?
Definitely a year's salary. I completely understood why he did what he did. So interesting. But yeah, as soon as I was watching it, I was like, this woman is so sedated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
on the street and would probably, like, in the real world, she would have probably just been left on the stoop, woken up in the kind of like at dawn and been like, oh, I need to go home. Like,
Yeah.
it would have
Yeah.
been a very short little
Movie.
yeah.
Da-da-da-ba-da-ba.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be more like the Italian neo-realist version of this story.
Mhm.
Did anyone find that inflation figure too?
Oh, yeah.
I
I've
found
got
it.
it. I think you've got it too.
Yeah.
Mine says that it today would be about $60,000.
Mine
Wow.
says just about that too.
Yeah.
58 was
About
what
a
came up
year's
for me.
salary. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And
Wow.
then we're going to get to Pretty Woman. That movie, the number is 3,000. And I think that's would be about 7,500 today.
Mhm.
That makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's a little closer in time. Although-
I think as we get into that movie, we can figure out if that's inappropriate.
Exactly.
Although, like,
That
Was
that
she
one's aged.
paid good?
Yeah.
although those movies were made 37 years apart, and
Mhm.
now it's 36 years in 2026 since Pretty Woman came out.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So maybe the next movie in this lineage is coming out next year.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
But so like we're all coming in with different vantage points to this story. Roman Holiday, for some of us, it is, the film is a time-honored classic. For some of us in our personal lives, it's a time-honored classic. For some of us, it is also not. So like, what are our personal histories with Roman Holiday? Had you seen it? What did you think of it?
Sydney, have you seen this before?
Yes, yeah. Kind of like in 2018, 2019, when I was dancing, that's when I became more of a movie buff because I finally had time to myself. I was finally out of college and had like free time in my brain to be like, I was like rewatching television I hadn't seen, or just like I had so much time I never had before. And I always had a laundry list of like all these movies I've ever wanted to see. And it was like the best 100 movies. And it was on it. And I just remember it being, I was more concerned with the acting and just looking at the acting and being, oh, this is such a beautiful film.
Mm-hmm.
So watched it then and then watched it again last night to be like nice and fresh.
Nice.
But yeah, it's so interesting because we were talking before, but I was getting my white guys mixed up with Gregory Peck and Jimmy Stewart. And that when I was watching the movie, I was like, I really liked him better in Rear Window. And then I was like, different guy. But Gregory Peck is an amazing actor. And when I was watching it this time, I was just looking at, because they said, oh, the chemistry was so great. Like the reviews were like, I looked at the reviews and it was like, their chemistry. And I was like, I didn't necessarily, I could feel the chemistry. I could feel the really good acting, but I guess my modern brain of looking at this very young woman, this older man, like the chemistry didn't align for me.
Yeah.
But it's still a beautiful film. I'm usually not a big critiquer.
Yeah. I feel like Audrey Hepburn would have chemistry with like a brick wall.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And
she's so lovely.
Yeah. And Gregory Peck in his own way, it's funny though, there's this kind of strong, silent thing that he's going for that does, as you say, I think
works.
reads differently. I think today.
Yeah.
But I totally see why people were just like, holy cow.
Yes.
They seem like they just want to jump each other.
You just sounded a tad like Tony Soprano there, praising the strong silent type.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever happened to Gary Cooper?
Yeah, that's who he's praising there.
Yeah. Definitely strong silent type. You've got the suits. It's like there were all these guys that were seen as like the protector, the safety in that time. And it's so interesting how it looks different.
His introduction is basically that. He's coming to her aid very early on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm glad he did, but it was just hilarious for her to he was like, I don't want her on my bed, and just like scoops her off of it. Then realizes, then realizes she's the princess. Like, I guess I got to put her back on the bed.
And I love then when she's like, thank you. It's so kind of you to let me sleep in your bed. You must have been so uncomfortable on this couch. And he's like, yeah, totally.
I want to know what the maid was saying to her, like, how dare you flimsy girl, or like whatever she's
basically
saying.
Like, please do not fool around in the place where I clean.
Yeah.
I love
you're a naked woman in a man's bathroom.
I love the way the camera moves in that shot when the maid's moving up to the door and opens up the bathroom.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's good stuff.
That felt ahead of its time. I thought like that kind of camera movement was like, where it's like it doesn't change the shot when the screen happens.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, I feel like you didn't see that in a lot of 50s movies.
Yeah,
that feels more like a 70s thing to me.
And I bet that apartment is so expensive now, like to have
because
those windows.
The windows are crazy.
Floor
the
to
balcony.
Ceiling. My God.
It's no kitchen, but like you
Who
got
needs
a good trade-off.
You're in Italy. I'm outside. I that's another thing I loved about the movie was all of the outdoor seating, and you're just sitting there with your little coffee or your little champagne glass looking at the Colosseum like, oh my gosh, I would love to go to Italy one day.
The sidewalk cafes, the Spanish Steps. This was a big movie in my childhood. My parents loved this movie. My uncle is like very obsessed with Italy. He's been many, many times. And so we took a family trip to Italy when I was like 8 or so. And that was, I would guess, is around the time I saw Roman Holiday for the first time. And my parents love this movie so much. They had several like prints in our house, like of screen grabs from the film. So like our living room when I was growing up had a shot of them on the Spanish Steps, like her with her gelato and him kind of, like right from the film.
Yeah.
That's so
and her
cool.
little,
Dress.
white.
Yeah. I loved the fashion. I love how her sleeves slowly rolled up and became more streetwear than princess wear. It was very cute. Very subtle, but I could see it.
Yeah.
Again, I think something that this movie has in common with the movie that we're going to start talking about eventually.
Yeah. And it's so crazy that this movie is like, this is where Audrey Hepburn gets the haircut that she comes to be known with for many, many years.
Yeah.
Did her real hair get cut in the movie, or?
I did not look that up, but I assume this was her actual haircut.
I think
she
so.
kept it for many years.
Yeah, I think so.
Or maybe she already had the cut
Yeah, it may have been a wig
the-
in the first part of the film. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm tempted to create an index of movies where real haircuts happen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because the only other one I can think of is
It's like V for Vendetta.
Oh, that's true. But like the other one I was thinking of was 50-50. That movie with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Seth Rogen.
Oh yeah,
where
he shaves his head.
Yeah, because the Joseph Gordon-Levitt character gets diagnosed with cancer in that movie. But I think he really shaved his head for that role, and what you see on camera is it's really happening.
Yeah. I bet there's a couple,
For sure. But yeah, this was a big movie for me growing up, and then I rewatched it about a year ago because Dougie had never seen it. And so we watched it about a year ago, and then I watched it again last night, and I really enjoy this movie. That's like a warm hug kind of movie for me.
Yeah.
Especially since you know that when you're watching it, your parents are like, this movie means so much to them.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
What is their favorite thing about it? Like, I know it's like Italy and their love of Italy, but like anything like theme wise or lines or like what else draws them to it?
I should have my parents who listen to this podcast write in and tell us like what do you guys love so much about this movie? My parents love classic movies.
I feel like that's one of the early points of intersection there.
Exactly.
It's like you guys were talking about the fact that it's shot on location. I think is a huge draw for this movie.
Yeah.
Also for the time. Like I think one of the really interesting things about how this movie is presented is it starts with this newsreel. The American public would have been transitioning away from getting their news as part of a newsreel, as something that came before the movies that they would see. And so guess what? Come to the movies because you're going to get to go to Italy. The destination is a huge draw.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's filmed on location, it just feels authentic in a way that you can't replicate just like with on sound stages.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's just beautiful to look at. Gregory Peck and Audrey Hepburn are huge stars that continue to this day are lauded as some of like the greatest actors of all time.
Yeah.
So I think just this.
I want to rewatch To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah, I was thinking that as well. I haven't seen that since I was a kid, and that's that's Gregory Peck's Oscar-winning performance. Definitely looking forward to revisiting that.
I just love to see things like as decades pass, showing age, but to rewatch it and like, what's the lens now? And what I was going to say before I forget with Italy is that another thing you can't do now, it's like you've got to pay extras and all that stuff to do it. It's like you could truly just have a camera behind a motorcycle going down the street and people are going to act like, okay, this is no big deal because what are you doing? Yeah. Now you can't do that. And I was like, wow, like these are the most pedestrians.
Yeah, exactly. They're so convincing.
Yeah, because they're literally like, we don't care whether this is real or not. Like, get out of my way. It's perfect.
Yeah, it continues to interest me that like that Roman holiday was concurrent with the wave of Italian neorealism where like they were really making movies with that level of authenticity.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not like a big expert on Italian neorealism, but I feel like it's often looked to as like one of the like the foundational film movements for like guerrilla filmmaking, where it's not like, even before like the French New Wave, where it's, like it's all on location and it's really depicting these stories. I don't know if there were very many like non-actors in those movies, but depicting stories that have a slice of life element to them. It's, we're kind of eschewing the grandeur of Hollywood for just something very plain spoken.
Yeah,
totally.
Right.
Yeah.
So this movie seems like it's trying to get a little bit of the juice from that.
Yeah.
With the big studio treatment.
Yes.
Kind of thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's come up on this podcast before. Like this Roman Holiday is a foundational movie for many people. I'm just realizing the pun and foundation by talking about, a film set in a city with where you can see a bunch of exposed foundations.
Okay.
We're reaching for that one a little bit. I'll go for it.
I'm reaching.
Yeah, I know. Julian is like a pro reacher.
I enjoy the reach, but
reach away.
Yeah. And so like Gregory Peck and Audrey Hepburn, as you mentioned, Madeline, still considered some of the greatest movie stars of all time. But something that is true in my movie watching life, and I mean, it's true for everyone, but for this movie, it really comes to the foreground, is that there are some canonical classics that I just somehow have not gotten to yet. And up until this week, Roman Holiday was one of them.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been aware of its legendary status for quite some time, but I never got around to seeing it until this week. I knew that it was a really big movie for you, Madeline. So As soon as we decided to cover it for this cycle, I was not surprised and I was excited to finally get to it. And apropos of that, I mean, I've seen some films with Gregory Peck before, but the only movie with Audrey Hepburn I had seen before this was this Ealing Studios crime comedy called The Lavender Hill Mob.
I gotta see her do
crazy.
comedy.
She is in that movie for about 2 seconds.
And that's a really fun movie, by the way.
It's a great,
okay.
it's an Alec Guinness vehicle from about 2 years before this.
Yeah.
Before Roman Holiday. But yeah, she is in like one shot for that movie. I think she has one line, if that. But
that was your only exposure to Audrey Hepburn in film.
Yes.
So you have a long list to get through. Breakfast at Tiffany's, obviously, My Fair Lady, Sabrina. I mean, the list just goes on.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones there.
Right. But to be totally accurate, where I also had some prior exposure was that a few years ago, one of my guitar students had requested to learn Moon River from Breakfast at Tiffany's.
I mean,
so that scene,
one of the great songs.
That scene I've watched many times where she
me and
performs
my brother's song.
Oh, that's
good
sweet.
choice.
That is a song we used to sing, my wife and I, all the time to
All
our
the
son.
time. It means a lot to us. Yeah.
It was like our preferred lullaby with him.
that's
He heard
so
that song
beautiful.
like every night for 3 years.
Just in the spirit of something that we occasionally observe on this podcast, like that's a very beautifully directed scene of that movie, the rest of which I have not seen. But, Audrey Hepburn is sitting with a guitar there. And I really wish that
you could say that there's better accuracy.
Yeah, I really wish that her fingers were making the chords that you hear.
You were looking at Same with me with like dance stuff. I'm like,
right.
You're like, those aren't the steps. Come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this really was in earnest my first exposure to Audrey Hepburn. I mean, I get the hype.
I was going to say, how do you feel? You've been initiated.
It's an incredible performance that she gives. And really, like, I think, Madeline, you said earlier, it was a warm hug of a movie. I totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
I was totally down for the ride with this, that motorcycle ride. It could have been me on Gregory Peck's back.
Yeah.
But yes, this image that is depicted, like I have the DVD case right here. And also this book that I am sooner or later going to reference that I've already referenced in this episode cycle, Esther Zuckerman's Falling in Love with the Movies.
What a beautiful picture.
Where the front cover image is Gregory Peck and Audrey Hepburn on that little scooter, motorcycle, whatever you call it, together.
If that isn't evidence enough that this is like one of the canonical romantic comedies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Emilio, what was your exposure to this movie, your experience in your life?
This is one of those movies I definitely saw it when I was a tween, maybe somewhere between 11 and 13. I remember reading a book around that time about the golden age of Hollywood. It was one of those kind of core books that really ignited an interest in film for me. I remember this movie working on me right away. I mean, Audrey Hepburn is like one of those just like absolutely stunning, just physical presences in movies.
100%.
She's so beautiful. My wife, when we just watched this movie, could not stop talking about how beautiful she is. And I'm like, And so this movie worked on me right away, probably for that and for other reasons too. I've seen this movie probably like 6 or 7 times. It just crushes every single time. I'm so along for the ride, as we said. I've definitely watched this movie with a lot of girlfriends in my life. This is like a go-to great date movie. The last time I saw this movie before watching it again for our conversation was on Valentine's Day in 2013 at BAM. And I took someone who was newly my girlfriend at the time, and it was a really nice time.
Oh, wow.
One of the most delightful movies that I know. And I feel like if you don't like this movie, I'm suspect
a little
of you.
skeptical.
Yeah, if you're one of those people that comes in as like, hot take, that movie's real mid or like just whatever.
Well, then I want to know their top 5. You know? But I get it. It's like my dad always says, like, I don't want to watch a movie unless something goes shoot 'em up, bang, bang. Like he always says, like, I don't want to do any like we didn't watch children movies. Like we watched like The Matrix, Lord of the Rings. Like he wanted to go see like production, and I get it. So there is that community of people that are like, I don't want to watch the classics, the woo woo, whatever.
But hey, there's a fight scene in this movie.
There is.
Yes.
Pretty nice one on a barge.
Honestly,
And the guitar gets destroyed.
Yeah,
Right.
I was gonna say you're talking about what
Guitar
she's
gets
doing
destroyed.
on that balcony in Breakfast at Tiffany's.
She
but
might be calling
that
back some of that
guitar
energy.
Could have had a much worse fate in her hands.
Yeah. I mean, to like play something that's not in sync with what you hear, I mean, that's not damaging the instrument.
Hey,
true.
there you go.
Yeah.
But you're so right about her energy. So
Yeah.
like, I think also her and Julia Roberts have this both where it's like, it's their essence that's like oozing through the screen
Yeah.
that captivates you. It's like a mixture, yes, of their beauty, their uniqueness, but like how they're saying the words, how they're bringing you in, like what are they saying with their words and how it like all comes together is very effervescent. Also, it's so funny that it's like an unknown European city.
Yeah.
And she's doing that transatlantic like way of
Totally.
saying things. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, what country? But that's just
We
the
need
sign
answers.
of the times.
We need to know what this is.
I'm
Yeah.
sure that Roman Holiday was somewhere in the sphere of influences for The Princess Diaries, which
Oh,
is
yeah,
directed
for
by
sure.
the person whose movie we'll discuss in the other half of this episode.
That's true.
100%.
Yeah.
Garry Marshall.
Mhm.
But that's another movie where, I mean, the country is named there, but it's a fake country.
Yeah. I guess
Genovia.
they could have done that in this movie.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's starring an Anne as opposed to having a character
Mhm.
That's true.
named Anne. Yeah.
I even know the song Genovia, and I
Yeah.
call my home.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But no, Garry Marshall is such a romantic comedy genius. My gosh, he just captures like if Audrey and Julia capture that energy as an actress, I feel like Garry Marshall captures it as the film, like the setting and the just the energy he gives is that warm hug. You
Yeah.
know, like I could watch a Garry Marshall movie. I even watched it was either
He's
the day
made some-
before.
Yeah.
I watched I Hate Valentine's Day or it was
Just
just
Valentine's Day.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, like you have all the big stars,
Uh-huh.
and yeah, it's like nothing to write home about. But like
I've seen that movie several times, and I'm like, is this a good film? I mean, probably not. But is it like
It's
perfectly
Garry Marshall.
enjoyable
Yeah,
to
yeah.
watch?
Yeah.
Just a bunch of really famous people come in and do like two scenes.
It's like, oh, that
and-
person's that person's
and-
that person.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does like
Yeah.
the Love Actually thing where
But
all
you
the
can tell
stories
Garry
are
Marshall's
connected.
having so much fun,
He's
and
having
he's just like
fun.
love. We have to celebrate love. So I'll
There's
take
a
it.
lot to be said for that.
Yeah.
When you feel the actors or the filmmakers having fun, that's contagious as
Yes.
an audience.
Yeah,
And
you can
think
feel it.
Yeah, I think you feel that in this movie too.
Roman
Like,
Holiday, yeah.
Yeah, Roman Holiday. I think that just you're going along with these two characters who are basically just having like a fun day on the town. Like, what if we just let Anne do all the things she's dreamed of that she hasn't been able to do because she's essentially just been locked away in a tower or like told exactly what she needs to do in any given moment of the day. Let's just take her on like the best day of her life.
Yeah.
And you kind of you feel that in the characters, but I think you feel that in the actors as
Yeah.
well. Is
Yeah.
that they're like, what if we just like go hang out in Rome?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's like when you hear actors talk about like script doesn't look great. Oh, but we're shooting in Hawaii for 3 months.
like okay, let's go. Let's
Yeah.
go film White Lotus or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
But here's my first kind of like more. It's not even a hot take. It's more of like an overarching thing that sometimes I see as now that I was about to say as an older woman. Like, no, you're not. It's just like as I get older, when you see this trope of like a woman's freedom happening with her first interaction with a certain type of man.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Yes.
And, you know, it's always fun to see. And we've also been in those moments where like a partner or a person you meet or an experience you have opens this door of freedom for you and you get to experience so much. And like the sensitivity that it has when it is paired with a man that maybe you don't spend the rest of your life with, but like this freedom that it's like, it's not his validation, but just your experience and the freedom he gives you is so, it's subversive to what you even think is freedom.
Mhm.
It's such a, I don't know, it's like a curveball that hits you in the face and you're like, oh, I didn't even know a day could exist like this.
Absolutely.
Right.
And
He's like opening doors for her that
Yeah.
she never even really
thought
considered.
about. Yeah.
Right.
And a lot of times in movies and in life, and that's why it's in movies, it's always paired with a man, but it's a very different type of movie when it's on her own.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And particularly in 1953, a lot of these things
she's not going anywhere.
she
by
wouldn't
herself.
be able to do on her own.
Yeah.
She wouldn't be able to navigate the city.
Mhm.
There's a benefit to him kind of escorting her in that he lives in this city.
Yeah.
He knows how to get her around
Yeah.
to like,
she doesn't
oh,
have
here's-
cash.
Here,
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And he can sweet talk the cabbie, you
Yeah,
know, that's
exactly.
But I think one of the things that you bring up that I think is also kind of compelling when you watch this movie,
Mm-hmm.
there's like a lot of secrecy
Yeah.
amongst the characters. I think, we're talking about how like fun and freewheeling this movie is and how light it feels. But if you really dig into it, there's a lot of deception from both sides.
100%. I mean, throughout Roman Holiday, Joe and Anne have to constantly lie to each other in order to keep their identities hidden. What they have cannot work if either of them knows who the other is.
Yes.
Obviously, Joe knows who Anne is, but she doesn't know that he knows.
Yes.
And I think that's very important because she can still think that she has this veil.
Yes. And that there's like spontaneity to everything.
Yeah.
And romanticizing deception is what an online critic was calling it. And I was like, ooh, what a phrase.
That's definitely a factor in this. And you have to reckon with that directly with the scene at the Mouth of Truth, where they're like, this thing is going to snap your hand off if you're a liar. They're both kind of like, oh no. So how do you guys think this romantic deception, is that what you said?
Yeah, romanticizing deception.
And how do you guys think that affects their romance in this movie?
There's, in a way, there's a kind of purity that it induces.
Yeah.
A few episodes ago, we talked about The Apartment and how...
Oh, I love The Apartment.
So do we.
We love that movie too.
See, y'all are my people. That is such a beautiful movie.
It really is.
It's definitely in my top 10.
And we got a little bit into a similar topic there where, we were talking about like the sympatheticness of Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine's characters, CeCe Baxter and Fran Kubelik in that film. The dramatic irony that exists in Roman Holiday. I mean, I think there's a little more of that element of dramatic irony in this film than in The Apartment, but I registered a similar effect from it. The deception between these characters allows them to have a more pure date themselves, as opposed to something
the lie
that
allows the freedom.
Right. Yeah. It's not qualified by, like the responsibility that Joe Bradley has that he's hiding, or the, also the responsibilities that Princess Anne should have, but that she is foregoing. And I think there is this feeling for both of them of that they don't totally know where this is going. They don't totally know what they're doing, but they wouldn't have said this at the time. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Or the Hays Code wouldn't have let them say it.
They
but maybe on set they're like,
it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Freedom wouldn't have happened. The change that came within both of them wouldn't have existed without the deception, which sucks because it's like, no, you should believe in love's truth and not love's fantasy. But it's kind of like when you first meet someone and it's like you're not trying to deceive. But
you're meeting their representative and they're meeting yours.
But I do think there's something to like, oh, well, they're able to connect on the romantic in me wants to look at it and it's like they're connecting on like a soul level. Like it doesn't matter the details of their lives and that's not important. They don't actually need to know those things about each other because they're connecting on like they have a chemistry that they're both picking up on and they're connecting on a deeper level than that.
And they both know, and they both know that the other one knows that this only exists today.
Yeah.
Like they know in the back of their minds and even in the characters that they're portraying that this is just a day.
Yeah. Which you brought up the before trilogy, which that turns into like, oh, this will just be a day, but then like, oh,
psych.
They're like, well, what if? And this movie doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of genius.
Yeah. There's no Roman Holiday 2.
Yeah.
Right.
Which apparently they like kind of discussed and I think very quickly was shot down, thankfully.
Because I could have still, I mean, it was a beautiful ending, very sad, but well, not sad, just kind of like it makes sense.
It's bittersweet for sure.
Right. But like she could have like ran after him like, oh, Gregory,
be my prince.
Bradley or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
She could have like given up that her status, her power.
Because she even says like, if I didn't know the responsibilities that I have, I would not have come back.
Right.
And I'm like, I get it. I get it.
Yeah. It's not an equivalent situation, but whenever like this kind of benign deception comes up, I have to think of the movie The Farewell, the movie starring Awkwafina from a few years ago.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, which I think is like somewhat autobiographical for her. But the idea of a good lie of like, and in that film, it's about her grandmother who's dying, I think, of cancer, not being told this until she's basically on her deathbed. But the idea of like of benign deception coming up there to I feel like deception on its surface is not something that people typically consider benign, but when it's used to preserve this sense of, wouldn't even call it an illusion, but innocence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Sydney said, it's just a day.
Right.
So what are really the repercussions of them keeping this deception up? Like, if they both have this mutual understanding of like, hey, we're just having fun for one day, then and neither of them are going to get too attached.
Yeah.
Then does it actually matter that they're lying to each other? Because they seem to agree that it's okay.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think about, and I think maybe this is something that we've stated already, but I feel like the deception is also one of the reasons they feel like they're kind of playing with house money, you know, and this day can kind of be whatever it is. But I also think that because of that, they know at the end of the movie that they can't be together.
Yeah.
They can't. There are all these other things that they have going on, but then also that is not a great place to start a relationship from.
Exactly. If they were going to continue a relationship, then I think many of us would be like, okay, no. Like, you got to be frank with them. You got to tell it to them straight.
Yeah.
You cannot keep this lie up.
Yeah.
If there's any chance of you continuing after one day.
And I think that that's what makes that ending so effective, because you see it on her face a lot, that she's like, now the realities of all this and what was going on are really hitting me. And I can't even really entertain this as a thing that maybe I think about and go back to in my head a little bit. And I know that I have these other responsibilities, but what about this guy? Well, now I know about this guy, and I know that this happened. And in some ways it works really well that the movie has this bittersweet ending, because it is tied to the deception. The deception allows for them to be, super loose and have it be a holiday, but also kind of seals the fate, I think, of whatever relationship there might have been,
like
there.
from the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah. There were some ways that Roman Holiday, despite being like this enshrined Hollywood classic, to me it felt like a pretty bold movie for its time.
Yeah.
Especially for a rom-com. But there are a few aspects of this that I think are pretty salient. I mean, the bittersweet ending, of course, being one of them. I also think that like there were some moments of this movie where the tone, I thought, was like a little like surprisingly ahead of its time for a movie of 1953. Like there was like the amount of the movie that like the stretches that go with no music. I found that interesting. The first half of the movie, the score seemed very selective.
I noticed that it is pretty scarce. I noticed that this time in a way that I don't think I had previously.
Yeah. And so it registered to me, and also like with the length of some of those scenes, I mean, it felt like it was going for a greater realism than a lot of Hollywood films. I haven't seen any other William Wyler films. I don't know if that was a tendency on his part. And then, I already mentioned like the camera work in that scene when the maid is walking through the apartment. But it struck me that for like a movie that, this is coming out within the Hays Code and still adhering to a lot of conventions, that it really seemed to boldly defy them in some ways. And it's worth saying that the origin of this film's story is the screenwriter Dalton Trumbo.
Yes, who was blacklisted.
Yes, at the time of
didn't receive credit for many years.
Yes, not until 2011 did he have
I didn't know this. What happened?
Well, so he was already blacklisted by the time that this movie was in production. And
he refused to testify before the Un-American Activities Committee.
Yes.
Oh, is this like during the McCarthy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Early 50s.
Yes. I'm going to draw from the oft-referenced book Oscar Wars. It's a book I acquired about 2 years ago, for the purpose of research for this podcast, and here I am drawing from it again. But so, amidst a bunch of details about Trumbo's being found guilty by HUAC and then being imprisoned, before leaving for prison, he had written an original screenplay that was as fanciful as his reality was bleak, but that mirrored it in exactly one respect. It was about going incognito. The story was about a princess who poses as a commoner and falls in love with a reporter. It was Roman Holiday.
Cool. I like that.
Wow.
Art imitating life.
Yeah.
And
He
so it's
wanted a holiday. My God.
Yeah. He's like, man, let's
so
make it happen.
if you don't know that, I mean, this movie totally passes as, just straight up entertainment. But I think, when you consider the little ways that it goes against the grain for its time, and you consider who wrote it, that makes it an even richer experience to watch
100%.
it.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
That's so beautiful too, because it's like, did he see himself as
Joe or
as Anya?
Yeah.
Was he this journalist that kind of just wanted a break from the realities of him having to write constantly and find money and all of that? Or does he feel like he's in this ivory tower of Hollywood and wanting a break from that to just kind of like go walk around in Italy?
Yeah, I could definitely see him putting a little
like
bit
both.
of fantasy into each of these characters.
Mhm. Yeah, and then looking a little bit ahead at what happened with Dalton Trumbo once
I was literally just about to ask. I was like, did he go to jail? Or
well, I would still have to brush up on the details of exactly
I'll
his
have to
timeline.
Google. Yeah.
But by the time the movie was released, and then this ravenous success that it was, he was effectively taking asylum in Mexico City.
Wow.
So he was living there with his family at the time. And then there's this nice paragraph also from Oscar Wars about what Trumbo was doing when he was in Mexico. So Trumbo was in Mexico in September 1953 when Roman Holiday, directed by William Wyler, opened to raves. The idea had come from Ian McClellan Hunter, co-writer, after reading about Princess Margaret's tour of Rome. Hunter, before he himself was blacklisted, agreed to be Trumbo's front man, and after delivering the script, he was hired, along with several others, to do rewrites. When Paramount released the film, Hunter got sole story credit, and he shared screenwriting credit with English writer John Dighton. The following spring, Roman Holiday won 3 Academy Awards: Best Actress, Audrey Hepburn; Best Black and White Costume Design, Edith Head; and Best Motion Picture Story, awarded to Hunter, who did not show up to accept the prize from Kirk Douglas. Ring Lardner, another screenwriter from the time, wrote to Trumbo, "Never has a man been so appalled by the success of work credited to him. As if haunted by a telltale heart, Hunter kept the statuette at the bottom drawer of his filing cabinet, but he wasn't haunted enough to hand it over to Trumbo."
I was just about to say, it's like, well, you could
You could give it to
Give
this
it
poor
person-
man.
Yeah, you can make this right.
credit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like a few episodes ago, we also talked about Shakespeare in Love, which has an infamous Oscar campaigning story attached to it
Yeah.
as well. And I couldn't help but think, well, that's another movie where there's a similarity in the ending where these characters are like, "I love you, but I know we can't be together."
Mhm.
Yeah, I was thinking about that rewatching this.
Yeah. Also that, Viola, the Gwyneth Paltrow character in that, she's not quite a princess, but she's nobility.
Yeah, she is definitely has that. I'm escaping and posing as a person that I'm not, so that I can escape this reality that's very suffocating to me.
Right,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I just wanted to quickly say for Dalton Trumbo, I was just doing some quick Googling that he served 11 months in a federal penitentiary because he was convicted for contempt of Congress. And he, in the 70s, went on to say, "As far as I'm concerned, it was a completely just verdict. I had contempt for that Congress." And he said some other stuff, but I think that's funny.
I want to learn more about this
A little
guy.
bit of time away from the incident gave him the perspective, I guess, to say that.
He said, "And I have had contempt for it ever since."
Right.
And then,
Right.
ironically, a few years after his credit was reinstated to Roman Holiday, then Bryan Cranston played Dalton Trumbo in a biopic
right.
and was nominated for an Oscar for it.
There we go.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
He didn't win. He lost to Leo DiCaprio. That was the year of The Revenant.
The Revenant,
but-
yeah.
I
Yeah.
also think about royalty
Mhm.
and how Americans depict royalty. I mean, at that time, wow, just to see something, on film or on a TV of a princess's life was just wow.
Yeah.
And now looking at it, it's how she's able to exist in royalty and the monarch and all of these things. It's just very interesting because I don't know. I just like the very slight news we hear about Camilla and
Yeah.
just everything
I
that's
know
happened with the royal family.
You're a big Meghan Markle fan. You've got a Meghan Markle impression.
I sure do. Yeah.
And so I know you're kind of tapped into some of the drama in this world.
Truly, after Meghan Markle left Europe, I was more so, it's like the impression isn't even an impression. It's just me being a nice lady. But I did do this character once where like she has a show called With Love and I did With Hate. And she just was like, just mad baking, talking about like Camilla Quesadilla, like riffing on like just like what if. I always love a black lady character that gets to say what she can't say in real life.
Yeah, I see that in your work a lot.
Yeah, I think it's me. I think it's me wanting to say this, but I can't say it in real life, so I'm going to make this character do it for me. It's like, well, one day, Sid, you're going to have to mesh the two and actually learn how to communicate with people. But I'm learning. But with Meghan Markle, we're all learning how to communicate.
I was just going to say, we're all
Confrontation's
learning.
hard, yeah. But I thought about Meghan Markle. I thought about, too, just like how a white woman is able to do that and others aren't, or just like how she can do it and she can come right back and it was like no big deal.
Yeah, and everybody's kind of like, hey, that was a bad thing you did. And she was like, what, are you going to tell my parents?
Yeah. Now, and I bet even back then, like everything was so incredibly meticulous with like how they dress and how they act,
rigid,
blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So it's like, does she abandon it all or do you go do what you're supposed to do? It's like, it's a good life too. It's like, maybe after her holiday too, she's, she kind of comes, to grips with it at the end. Like, oh, I couldn't do this every day.
Yeah.
Like
she's like, I have the people of my country relying on me. I think that's a big part of it for her. Like there was that one scene where she's in the apartment and then the radio is on and they're like, hello, yes, this is an update. Princess Anne is still very ill and it's really affecting. Yeah. It's really like the people of her country are becoming quite worried. And she turns it off. But I think that's the moment for her where she's like, I have to go back. Yeah. I can't.
Even though it's
can't go on like this.
The people of the country are fine.
They're fine. And like, what does a princess do? Right. Exactly.
But I get it. It's like when Princess Diana, like, that ripped everybody's hearts out. So I get it. It's like, we do care about these people. They are in our lives and it does matter. So I get it. Yeah.
You mentioned Princess Diana, and another movie I was thinking about for comparison while watching Roman Holiday was the much more recent film Spencer.
I need to see that.
Yeah, it's good. Where Kristen Stewart plays Princess Diana. I, as far as I'm aware, the movie is mostly fictional, but it's more of like a character portrait as opposed to just reality. And that's, I think, a much more like a mostly gloomy take on what it's like to need liberation from that, the regimentation or the regimentedness, whatever the word is, of that lifestyle. Yeah. And it's very clear that Princess Diana, as portrayed by Kristen Stewart, that she's very depressed.
Yes. Or even if you just, now that I'm older and I look at pictures of Princess Diana, like just to see the sadness in her energy and her, because she has that same warmth and energy that like
that
bursts
charisma,
through screen,
just
like Julia Roberts
Hepburn,
and all them.
Yeah.
And to see that glow fade in her because of like the regimen and all that. I mean, for like the queen to be like, okay, girl, you can get out of this. Like for the queen of England to be like, I see you. We're going to let you get out of this. Like it had to be. Oh, bless her heart. Yeah.
Yeah. And but it's an interesting like shift of tone too, because like Princess Diana's story in real life and in that fictional portrayal, it's one where like that liberation is something. I mean, it takes a while in that movie Spencer for Kristen Stewart's Princess Di to even enjoy herself a little bit.
Yeah.
And whereas in Roman Holiday, like, I mean, Audrey Hepburn shows such a great range of moods, but you get the sense that liberation comes a little sooner for her.
Yeah.
There's something just generally a little more exuberant, although granted for much of the first chapter of her presence in the movie, she is under the influence.
Yeah. There are also some, that's true. There are also some realities, I think, that are very different, I think, from these characters. The mood and the time for Diana where she's unable to really enjoy things. Like she's given up a really big thing and she can't retreat to anonymity. She's always going to be this person. Yeah. And I think that's something that this movie, Roman Holiday, that we're talking about, allows her to do. Like she's able to kind of enjoy all this, still knowing that her position is safe. At least,
There's
the
no
idea that
paparazzi. There's no
right, exactly,
that she knows
that
of.
she. Yeah, I was about to say.
right,
Irving
right.
was on her case.
I love that cigarette lighter, man.
Camera.
That was really cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was real cool.
Yeah, that was like some Ocean's 11 type stuff.
Yeah, like down the block, there's a spy store. I feel like they would have.
They would
one
have
of
that.
those.
I also love just the physical comedy of like the coffee on his shirt, and then like, what are you doing?
I want to come back to that a little bit, but
Yeah.
Or maybe we talk about it now. I mean, Irving puts up with some shit, man. Like Joe really beats him around.
Well, but I think he very quickly is going to lose it on Joe, and then Joe is like, "I'll give you $1,000."
Yeah.
And we looked up what $5,000 was,
right.
meaning $1,000 is like more than 10 grand.
Yeah.
Wow.
So for 10 grand, you're going to let your friend spill coffee on you, kick you out of your chair. It's fine.
I also love that little
Albert.
detail. He's actually meeting a woman there, and he like kind of stands her up. And
He's
is
like, "Oh, sorry, baby, I gotta
go." And she's like, "Wait, what do you mean?" He's actually the character that I feel like I remember the most.
Yeah.
He's
from
memorable.
as a kid. He's like the sidekick. And I think he goes through a very similar journey. I think by the end of the movie, the way that Joe lives and dies as the stoic guy, Irving is not.
Yeah.
Irving, I think, reads a little more modern as a guy.
But Eddie Albert is the actor who played Irving Radovich. That's his full name. Lived to be 99 years old.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I was looking at that 2005.
We're gonna talk about him again pretty soon.
Oh, fun.
Eddie Albert he's the man.
But then I was thinking too about like with what the side of Joe Bradley that you see in that scene, that like where the character I think is another rich dimension of the character is that the job that he's doing and what he has to keep secret from Princess Anne, it's inherently
Smitty.
It's like it's a little manipulative.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
No,
more than
it
a
is.
little.
I mean, but it's also him and Joe working in tandem.
Yeah, but it's that like Joe that he has to go through that great comic set piece with Irving in order to preserve this lie, and that you see that like. Well, Gregory Peck, who's well known for being like one of Hollywood's great, nice, gentle guys, that he's letting out this more like on edge side of himself.
Sure.
And
or the like shyster, the guy who's like, hey, you know what? I can make a quick buck here. Or I can climb. If I do this, I'm back in the good graces to get promoted or whatever, or get out of Italy.
Yeah. Yeah, and also like we talked a little bit about that brawl that happens later on the dock,
the barge,
the barge,
like the boat party.
Yeah, so it's like the guy like he can fight if he has to.
Yeah, he can scrap.
They're both whippers. I feel like if you're an American in a European city like that, like you have to just like scrape by and figure it out.
Totally.
For sure. In setting up this conversation, we had talked about doing Roman Holiday, and Pretty Woman sort of entered the ether, and what these movies share is that they really film the female leads and present the female leads.
Yeah.
In this, the ingenue has arrived. A star is born as a feeling. Roman Holiday really does it. And I think Pretty Woman in many respects does as well. And I would ask you guys what you saw in the narrative or maybe the direction that is forecasting how this movie wants you to fall in love with this woman.
I love it because you see her. How I resonated with it is that I used to be so pinned up. I loved a button down and in a high-waisted pant and just being very put together and feeling like it's your armor against the world. It's like your makeup, your hair up. It's like, I want to be seen as a professional, that I'm smart, that I can do this, like young woman against the world. Yeah. And you get to this point that I resonated with her where you're like, I've got to breathe, let go, and let life in. So you see her unbuttoning a little bit. It's not even about like sexuality. It's more like, how do I be sensual to myself? What is comfortable for me and my body?
Right.
Like you see her change her shoes, her hair. It's like she
finally wear pajamas.
And like, how do I walk down the street and just like allow my brain to breathe? I think that moment is like the stars born. I love, it's like men come of age, women like go find the Tuscan sun. Like we're going to go find the sunlight in some type of way of like, I want to be retrospective of what's going on in my life and just not even talk, just walk down a street, lick an ice cream cone, let it not be chocolate, and just like take, like, I want some lemon sorbet. It's like,
that's probably what she's got.
Yeah. Like she's walking down the street and she's allowing herself time to think. And I think of that. I think of like A Star Is Born as freedom to kind of like come into your own, and like, what type of woman do I want to be? And it's not even about like, I mean, even with Julia Roberts, I know we'll talk about it, it's like when she finally gets to decide what she wears, it's typically not like the like cheetah print, V-neck, whatever, because that's still a little bit of like the male gaze, however you want to say it. Usually, well, not usually, we're all different. Like some woman is going to walk out the door and be like, this is my liberation.
Right.
But sometimes liberation is a button-down shirt, but just one button. Or it's this high-waisted thing. It's like your own expression, like that liberation. Is you expressing yourself how you want to, especially having like coming of age, you like have your own adult money and like how you express yourself. It's so beautiful to watch people come into that as well. It's like, oh, she didn't used to dress like that 10 years ago. Look at her go, you know. Maybe it's more color, maybe it's less color, maybe it's less Southern, maybe it's more Bab or like whatever it is. It's that's what I say.
Yeah, I love
but they're like their choices. Yeah,
I love what you're alluding to, where it's like Anne's journey of self-discovery in this film, in the narrative, can mirror, Audrey Hepburn's journey of, from relative unknown to A Star Is Born.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I feel like the movie really makes a meal out of her transformation.
Because you said it's her choice.
Yes.
It's like she has had her wardrobe and her hairstyles and her jewelry, all of this decided for her, most likely for her entire life. And she walks in this salon and she at first is met with like, oh, well, no, that's not what you would want.
Yeah.
And the barber he's cutting her hair and he's mad about it.
Until he's won over.
Like, she's right. Like, she has this like bone structure that has been hidden underneath the hairstyle that she's had. And she could see it. The rest of the world couldn't see it, but she could see the potential that she had.
Right.
Also, I have a hot take. Like, men will go through a challenge or like a great quest where he must prove himself. And a woman in a movie will just like go through a transformation where she finds herself. It's like not necessarily like, well, maybe Brave, Pixar's movie, like finally flipped it in 20, whatever it was, 14. But a lot of times, like in early on movies, like a woman would just almost like take off.
Yes, just like shedding her skin.
I want to come back to that point because I think that's something that
Julia
these
Roberts.
movies also share.
Yes.
I think these movies share really interesting journeys for the guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that like, well, you mentioned coming of age too, Sydney, and that Audrey Hepburn, I think we've mentioned, maybe it was off mics, maybe it was on mics, but we've mentioned that Audrey Hepburn was very young when this movie was made.
Like 24.
Yeah, when it was being filmed. Like, she was 24 in 1953. I don't know how close the movie was filmed to when it was released, but still young nonetheless. And it's like, I mean, I think that because it's so far back in time, and because I think we were saying a bit off the mics before we recorded that actors aged differently back then.
My God,
yeah. It's
true. He was a hard 37.
Yeah. It's like listeners, go back to our Grease conversation for some juicy stuff about that.
Or go to TikTok.
Grease
there too. Yeah.
Those guys look.
Easily.
May that never find us. May we age gracefully. My God,
Yes, but that like, it's easy to assume like with this distance, with this remove of time, that someone like her was older when she was playing that role and she wasn't. I think about that a lot, where I like compare my age now to like, okay, so and so famous person was this age when they did that. How similar must this have been? How in control of themselves must they have been in order to do that?
Or your sense of that control.
Yeah, your projection of it.
And then Audrey Hepburn, though, she grows up in a very wealthy, aristocratic family. But she also has to live through World War II in Europe and is moving around a lot when she's a young person. And her father leaves their family when she's really young. So it's like she also it's like she comes from a certain she comes from a certain amount of privilege, but she's seen some shit. And she was also like really involved with the resistance against the Nazis. Like she was like, delivering like food to people in hiding and things like that. So
and here I am like being like, man, that's a hard 37. It's like these people lived through war.
Depressions,
I think they would also, we would look a little harsher too.
But I think that there's like a maturity that you feel with Audrey Hepburn because she's lived so much already at 24.
Yeah.
That's a great
And
point.
she studied ballet also.
I
There
can
we
see
go.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can see it in her shoulders. You can see it in her, like with her dresses and how
Posture,
she,
I think
all of that.
before she entered acting, she really wanted to make
Yeah.
that her career.
Mhm.
But I think now we're segueing into the point where we're kind of wrapping up Roman Holiday. But if we want to shout out any little details of the movie or other things
Ooh.
that are not yet mentioned that stood out to us, seems like now's a good moment to do that.
I like during the fight scene, Gregory Peck pushes a guy into like the canal or whatever, and then Audrey Hepburn throws him a life preserver.
I love that. Yeah, yeah.
I just think that's
Yeah.
a very cute and small moment. And then
Yeah.
also when they're running away, trying to escape the like secret service or whatever,
Mhm.
they go through some sort of storeroom that just has a little kitten in it. And I
Aw.
like kind of front and center.
Mhm.
And I just think it would be so easy for a film to be like, we don't need this cat. Like we have to get an animal handler in here for this cat that's just not going to be of any importance whatsoever. But I think it's just a little detail like that I love in a movie. It's like put a cat in the storeroom. Why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to come from that, I mean, it also makes me think we haven't really talked about the motorcycle ride yet,
Yeah.
which makes for another great comic set piece in this movie, where it's just amazing how many accidents they're so narrowly avoiding.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
just the episode before this, in the cycle, we were talking about broadcast news, and I have to think of the Blair Run in that.
Oh
movie.
yeah. A little bit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
A little bit of that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The famous Joan Cusack scene where she's like going under a file cabinet, hopping over a kid just to deliver a tape.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, it's life or death there at that station. So
Yeah.
the moment I want to call out is the moment that comes right after. I
Mhm.
think the moment in the police station is so fun. We were talking about how there are big stretches of this movie that don't have music. That is a moment that does.
But no
And-
dialogue.
But
For-
no
for
dialogue.
much of it.
Exactly. And to me, it feels very silent film.
Absolutely.
And all of a sudden you turn and you see all the villagers, and then they find out that someone was getting married, and
Yeah.
then, and it's like,
Oh,
and then
yes.
he walks out, and they're like, wait a minute, you're with the press. And he's like, well, you say you're with the press, you can get away with anything.
Yeah.
It's just like so fun because the movie could turn
Right
in
there.
that moment.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, our heroes are smart enough to stay one step ahead of things,
Yeah.
which I always just is so delightful for me.
Yeah.
That scene.
The thing that stuck out is that I always like to think that there are two types of Disney princesses where like they're either already a princess and like the guy, like this is very Aladdin coded. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like
totally.
Sure.
you have Princess Jasmine getting on a magic carpet and like having her day. Or you're Cinderella and you like get married in, which is like, Julia Roberts, Cinderella, Princess Anne, Jasmine. The princess always has to choose duty over love
Yeah.
or give it up for love.
I think that what's happened in this day has changed her.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
think that she is going to be able to assert herself more.
Mhm.
And she's going to be able to be a better leader for her
Yeah.
people also.
Or express herself, not even change, but just allow herself a little bit more of that freedom.
I mean, to come from both of your points, Sydney and Madeline. Well, Sydney, you mentioned the Cinderella connection, and that, I mean, we haven't even talked about that great moment at the beginning of Roman Holiday with the slipper.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
Big time.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I love that moment because it's very like showing and not telling,
Yeah.
which
Big
is,
time,
I think,
yes.
something that this movie is really good at because that's really our first introduction to her. And that moment just does all the characterization that you need
Yeah. Yep.
before
Yeah.
she even speaks.
While she's speaking to all of these different noble figures from various countries. I
Yeah.
love the guy with the comically long German name.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
I just in the past week before this watched for the first time the Coen Brothers movie Intolerable Cruelty, and that's another movie that has a character with a hilariously long German name.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, what's it? Heinz the Baron Klaus von Espy or something.
That
like
sounds right.
Or
Yeah.
from the little claymation movies like the Bürgermeister, Bürgermeister Burger. I always think of that.
Yeah.
Nice.
But then, like, to wrap this up, well, so one other little detail I love is Audrey Hepburn's face the moment when the drugs wear off.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and she comes to and realizes, like, Who are you again?
Oh,
Yeah.
like when she wakes up? Yeah.
I
Oh.
also wrote that down. That she has incredible facial control. And
Yeah.
I think that is the moment that really you can see that the most clearly.
Yeah. I would say too, just in general, going back to the direction of like making a star out of this, the amount of close-ups.
Yeah.
Extended close-ups
And
on
she can
her
really
face.
hold that.
She can
and
hold the
she
camera,
can just
man.
make the
Yeah.
very minor differences
Yeah.
that show so much emotion.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I found this great passage in Falling in Love at the Movies that I feel like is a great transition out of talking about Roman Holiday. But so this is in a later chapter of the book about, I think it's called like Not So Happy Endings. And so here's what Zuckerman writes. According to the American Film Institute, the last moments of the movie Roman Holiday were rewritten many times, but in what way, it's hard to tell. The Production Code Administration, the body that worked to institute the restrictive Hays Code, used to rate movies according to an analysis of film content. There were 4 options for how the reviewer perceived an ending: happy, unhappy, moral, or other. Roman Holiday's ending was marked as other. That other was self-sacrificing but happy. As with anything in the report, it's a reductive way of looking at a film, but it also feels not quite complete. There is a serenity to the last beats of Roman Holiday, to be sure, but it only hits after you've been emotionally walloped. Anne and Joe have both expanded their worldviews for the better based on their time together, and yet you're left wondering whether they will spend the rest of their lives in a state of regret. Maybe it was just a fling. After all, it only lasted for a single day, really. But there's also a sense that duty can be crushing. The complicated, uneasy question this iconic romantic comedy asks us is this: how happy is that self-sacrificing, really?
Thank you, Esther Zuckerman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Nice little button to put on that.
Yeah.
Totally.
Definitely.
Let's transition over to Pretty Woman now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty Woman, the film from 1990, directed by Garry Marshall, written by J.F. Lawton, starring Julia Roberts and Richard Gere, and not to be confused with other titles that may have a bit of an echo, such as Pretty in Pink.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
That was the first one that jumped out to me as well.
Same.
the John Hughes movie from, I think, 4 years before.
1986, yeah.
Yeah, which stars Molly Ringwald,
Which I love.
who I think was in consideration for the part that eventually went to Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman.
Yes, my understanding is that they thought she looked too young, which I would agree. We were talking about how young Audrey Hepburn is. Julia Roberts is also even younger when she does Pretty Woman, but she reads as a little bit older, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree.
Yeah. Also, Molly Ringwald just has such a different energy.
Yeah.
that I think that movie would have gone a very different and actually a more realistic way of the life of a sex worker and what that might bring up.
Very famously, Pretty Woman was supposed to be kind of a
lot
seedy,
darker.
much
Yeah.
darker film.
Interesting.
Yeah. The origins
the
of the
original
movie.
draft is not nearly as light as
Yes.
Yeah.
the
very,
film
very
we
different.
end up with.
Yeah. When it became like a Disney adjacent property,
Right.
a lot of things
And then
changed
Garry
for it.
Marshall's like, let's put love in it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is definitely complicated, which we'll probably talk about. But
Yeah.
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 I would say that Pretty Woman is also not to be confused with the movie Pretty Persuasion, which is a film from 2005 starring Evan Rachel Wood. It's kind of a hard name to say. About a teenager who decides to falsely accuse a teacher of sexual abuse in order to leverage the publicity into an acting career, I believe. Pretty Persuasion, not to be confused with Pretty Woman.
Yeah. Pretty Persuasion is also the title of a great REM song.
That's true.
I don't know if that was the basis for the movie's title.
They definitely don't seem to suggest that in any way.
And not like this film, like Pretty Woman, obviously.
good
is
point.
Thank you.
You know,
Oh,
such an
Pretty
iconic
Woman.
song that drops in, like it has an iconic needle
Yeah.
drop in the
Yeah.
film also.
Yeah. And this, I think Roy Orbison had died very shortly before this movie was made. And well, I mean, this is the first time in a while. I mean, Roy Orbison songs get played a lot in certain kinds of movies, but this is the first time I've seen a movie in a while that has a Roy Orbison song that's kind of just unreservedly a happy presence.
Yeah, but they do. I described it to Dougie as like edging. Like they actually wait a while to drop this needle. And even when they do it, they only drop like the first, 5 to 7 seconds. And then they pause. There's more of the scene sans music, and then they do the actual song.
That's true.
Mhm.
This is a story that has been modernized and adapted, but the roots of it definitely are in like Pygmalion. So
Yes.
this film is not to be confused with My Fair Lady, starring Audrey Hepburn, who we just talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So another Audrey Hepburn film that I've never seen.
Well, that one's a lot longer, so it's going to be more of a commitment.
I'll get to it. I mean, like just a few days before this, I just watched Once Upon a Time in America.
That's a long one.
It's a great long movie, but
It's good, yeah.
It's like I was not bored for a moment of those 4 hours, but it's 4 hours.
4 hours.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I just
That's
watched the
a minute.
entire season of The Pit, so I'm like, 4 hours is nothing. The whole shift is 15. I'm ready. Yeah.
Just to get all of the salient details out there, what is this movie about?
Well, we're in Hollywood where everyone's got a dream and some dreams come true and some don't. If Vivian has a dream, it doesn't seem to be working out too well for her because she's hustling on the streets of Beverly Hills as a sex worker who, with her pal Kit, work Bob Hope, the Ritz brothers, Fred Astaire, all the way down to Ella Fitzgerald in search of Johns that will keep them afloat in a mostly seedy existence. One such John, struggling to drive his attorney's manual transmission sports car, becomes unexpectedly intertwined with Vivian, something of a car enthusiast herself. And he reluctantly invites her to stay the night with him at his hotel. The two hit it off and have surprising chemistry. And with a big acquisition at stake for corporate raider Edward, he sees the value in having a stress-free girlfriend for the week. And for the bargain price of $3,000, Vivian becomes his beck and call girl while he's in town on business. Wined and dined and gussied up in the finest clothes, put up in the penthouse of the most luxurious of hotels. Is this the dream that she realized she wanted to be living out? The personal wants and desires of Vivian and Edward slowly complicate their once emotionless arrangement. And we fall headlong into one of the rom-com genre's most tried and true questions. Will they end up together forever?
Yeah.
That is the movie I watched.
Yeah. And well, speaking of it being the movie that we watched, like Roman Holiday, this was a first timer for me.
Wow.
As much as it's, a younger movie, but still an enshrined classic by this point. I think I've known about this movie what feels like forever in my cinephile life. In fact, my parents gave me this encyclopedia when I was a kid called something like 501 Greatest Movie Stars. And it's like from like the Barron's publication. And on the spine of that book is an image of Julia Roberts from this movie. Not with the wig when she's taken the wig
I was like,
off.
what was the outfit?
Look.
Yeah, the curly
the
brown.
The
fashion-
non-Carol Channing look.
Oh
Right.
yeah, the fashion of this movie. My
Mhm.
God,
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
And so it's always like I've always known about it being, I think, like the breakout role of Julia Roberts' career. And it's sort of like you don't know her truly unless you've seen that movie. And then in more recent years, understanding, especially after Anora came out and all the comparisons were being made there, that there are some similar dynamics at play in this film. But yeah, it was my first viewing. I think it's interesting with both of these films. There were some ways that my predictions about them were absolutely fulfilled. I think it was a little easier to predict Pretty Woman than Roman Holiday.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
movie subverted my expectations to a greater degrry, but there were little subversions in Pretty Woman too. We'll get into it, but
Yeah.
that's my immediate takeaway. Generally, I enjoyed it. I think with, if not full blown, maybe some reservations, but I'm loath to say that word. I think it's more appropriate to say I have some questions.
Questions.
About Pretty Woman.
Oh, you have
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
yeah.
Just things I'm kind of still mulling over.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How about you, Madeline?
I had only seen this once before. I remember watching this with my parents. I want to say I was like 15, 16. At some point when I was a teenager, I watched this with my parents. This was the first time I'd ever heard anyone say Rodeo Drive. I was very confused by it. I was like, why are they pronouncing it like that? They're like,
Rodeo,
it's
yeah.
a fancy fashion street in
Yeah.
LA. It's a real thing. And I was like, that sounds made up. Someone is lying to me. So that was the main thing I remembered from watching this movie the first time. As I rewatched, I was like, oh yeah, a lot of these scenes are coming back to me. I unfortunately remember the Jason Alexander assault scene. That one had stuck with me. That's unfortunate. But yeah, I enjoyed rewatching this, but I do think that I'm going to use the word reservations.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have reservations about this movie. I know some people watch this when they are young and they're like, that's love.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know about
find the
that.
guy that'll change everything for you.
Yeah,
it's almost like you're waiting for this Richard Gere to come into your life.
Yeah,
and then it starts.
At the very end, they do that thing where they get together and then it's like, oh, but she saves him too. And I was like, sure, okay, they say this, but it feels a little shoehorned in.
Yeah.
Like, yes, he has grown from his time with her. We do see that. However, this film still has that bit of like, a man is going to like pluck this poor woman off of the streets and give her a better life. And I was like, well, that's not what I'm interested in
or just
my own life.
The Prince Charming thing.
Yeah, exactly.
At the end of the movie, it's everything will be okay when you're finally chosen by a man.
Exactly.
And that it's in Disney princess movies. It's in so many different movies. And all of us American women like grow up being like, that is what we want to be chosen and proposed to so bad. And we never learn like something that I loved about this movie was her agency and her communication of her when she's uncomfortable. It's something that like I'm trying to learn in professional spaces as well. It's like when someone has said something that you don't like or someone is doing something you don't like she always like shut that down and communicated so eloquently to him. Like, yeah. And it really is very empowering.
That's
about
really
this movie, yes.
powerful way of characterizing her, I think.
Yes.
It's allowing her to do
and
that.
some of what ends up happening, I think, later in the movie undercuts a little bit of what you're talking about. It's like there's this character who's kind of trapped,
finding herself.
Well, but also kind of trapped in the machinations of a rom-com, you know, where it's
Princess
like,
Anne.
Yeah, you definitely want her to be able to break out.
Yes.
And at the end, I think even before he runs after her, she kind of gets a happy ending for herself.
Yes.
Just in that she's like, I'm going to go back to school. Like I'm going to figure my shit out.
So, okay. I'll jump in with my
what's your history?
With my history. So I similarly saw this movie pretty young. I think this was one of the first R-rated movies I can remember seeing.
Same.
I also saw this with my parents, or at least my mom, I think. For years, this movie, and I mean literally up until like a month ago, this movie kind of sat in my mind as one of these movies that I'm like, what's the deal? Like, what's the deal with this movie? Because a lot of what you were describing is very front of mind for me. I'm like, she has to be chosen, and this guy has to come in and kind of pluck her out. The environment that they're in is candy coated a little bit, you know, in this movie. It goes down smoother than I think you'd like in some respects. So I watched this movie about a month ago, thinking that this movie was going to be interesting from like a storytelling romantic comedy. What's its place in the oeuvre of this genre? And I got to say, I was really surprised how I let this movie just work on me. There are a lot of things that I think this movie does shockingly well. Now, I will say the shock for me, coming back to this movie, and maybe it's because I'm a guy and I'm like reading this through the eyes of a guy, is that this movie is about a change that he does. Like, yes, she has this change in her own life, but I was kind of surprised. Richard Gere, kind of underrated in this movie. I know that this is the Julia Roberts movie.
Yeah.
I was really shocked by this. I think when this movie starts, he is all about his career and all about money.
He's work obsessed.
He's
money
work obsessed. He gets his phone call from his girlfriend in New York, and he's just like, you know what? This is no longer convenient for me. Okay, whatever. It's like how quickly he's able to shut that down.
He has like no emotional attachment.
Exactly.
He's not interested in emotional attachment.
He's not, which honestly, like the movie starts and you're like, okay, like how much am I going to really grow to like this guy? And I'm like honestly surprised by how the direction that this movie takes, where he starts to kind of realize it's important to have roots. It's important that the work that you have actually like produce something. It can't
Yeah.
just be that you're moving money around.
Yeah, I like the scene where he says to, I think, Jason Alexander, like, we don't build
Like,
anything.
we don't do anything.
And he gets that from her.
Exactly.
Because she's kind of like, so what exactly do you do?
Right,
Like,
right.
because she's so far from this world that she's like, what you're describing to me sounds dumb
Yeah.
and like made up. And like, okay, what are you adding to the world?
Yeah.
And I think he hasn't been in a position where people have said that to him
Exactly.
directly.
Yeah.
He needs somebody to be like, hey, what you're doing, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it has to do with class.
Absolutely.
They'll try to button this up by saying, I don't think this is a perfect movie, but I was surprised that the movie got me there with his character because I was not ready to see this movie and go like, is this Richard Gere's movie in some way? And also just like kind of delightful moment by moment, like really great writing, very fun chemistry.
Yeah.
So there's like a way to,
great set and the costumes.
The
like,
costumes,
it's a great,
the looks.
Yeah.
the looks.
It's a great movie for an uncritical mind, comfort movie sort of thing.
Yes,
and I think
would agree.
Yeah, I'm now hearing everything that you're all saying. It's sort of it's answering some of the questions that I came in with, and I think I can say, okay, I share some of the reservations about this film too. I think in general, I'm a bigger fan of the first half of it than the second. And I think that it's like part of the reason why is we'll talk a little more about class in a second, but I think that like the differences in class between the characters are there's less of like a need to overcome them in the first half, and it feels maybe just a little, maybe I find it a little more honest there.
Yeah. It's like more fun the first half.
Yeah. And it's like, I think like pretty much the first act of the movie, if you call it that, like until she takes the wig off, I was with it. But I think that it's more in the second half when you start to feel like kind of the Hollywood creeping in, like, the need for a happy ending. And the need for resolution where maybe there isn't before.
Also, Act 1, I think they're having fun romanticizing deception. Like, how can I have this wig on and like I'm here to do this duty and like live in the freedom of what this gives me or the job that I need to perform. And then kind of like when the wigs come off and the love starts to happen, it's like, oh, now we're shifting into a different movie.
And once he proposes to her like to stay for the week, then now it's a different story.
Different movie.
Yeah.
It's Roman Holiday if there was literally like a second day. You know?
well, as soon as he said, like, decides to offer her this job for the week, that was the moment I was like,
that's
Honora.
Honora. Yeah. Now it's a transaction. Now it's like, I see you as a commodity. And that I think that's where all of our like spidey senses come in of like, oh, you're still using her.
Yeah.
So how can love come from this? I'll talk about the beginning of the film, especially like watching it now. Before it's like, oh, they fell in love and he swept her off her feet. But now watching it again, I watched it over the weekend. And there's just so many things because there's so much of how we romanticize the wrong thing sometimes in society. But it's like, but for the sake of the story, like, let's just enjoy it. But sometimes it's like, but these stories and its cultural impact affect how we look at the real situation. So there's a lot of romanticizing of a very, very unsafe and tumultuous experience that sex workers have. And how does a white woman, from this small town, and it's temporary for her, and it's a safe experience for her, and there's not much danger for her, or maybe there is, but it just, the way that it's depicted is that like, because she's beautiful and good enough, she will have a different experience as others. And it's hard when you think about Black and brown women and queer women and their experiences of death with sex work. It's hard to be older watching this and being like,
sure,
go Pretty Woman. But I'm like, Sid, enjoy the movie. Enjoy Julia Roberts' great acting. I loved the moments where like she took off the wig and you got to see like her kind of do that uncloaking that we were talking about.
Yeah, her luscious hair.
Yeah. So you got to see this character Stars Born come to life thing, and then also this older man, kind of like all my favorite white guys. He has that same kind of 1990s version of Gregory Peck and all those guys, where it's like this, like not fatherly, but like older brother,
Uncle-y.
but yet romantic uncle. That's like kind of creepy, kind of not, but it works. But like, I think they had more chemistry than Gregory Peck and Audrey Hepburn.
Interesting.
But I think it was more of like, I'm like, okay, let me put aside the storyline. But at the same time, like this white savior complex of like, okay, well, I'll give you this money if you still do the sex work. It's like, well, you could have just like given her the money and sent her on her way.
Yeah, totally.
But it's like, okay, let's enjoy the movie.
Yeah.
But I understand what you're saying. You know, like
Yeah, me too.
a lot of people when Honora came out were like, Honora is basically just Pretty Woman. And we talked about Honora at the time. We also recently talked Tangerine. And that is notably a film that actually the two stars in it were women of color sex workers actively, and like meet Sean Baker. And he's like, I want to tell your story. I want you in my film.
Yeah.
And that is actually a fairly light movie.
Yeah, considering
all
what
things
it could have been.
considered.
Yeah.
But there are certain things that it portrays that feel more like we're talking about the reality. Like there are, you know, Johns that are like kind of accosting them. They are assaulted at one point. Like, and these are not realities that Pretty Woman is interested in talking about.
Yeah.
That's very true.
In quite the same way, because you do have that pretty uncomfortable scene with Jason Alexander.
Yeah.
It's also like a scene that is kind of brushed away pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And
Right.
but yeah, to get full on into this issue of class difference in the film, I mean, so it exists in both Roman Holiday and Pretty Woman, but whereas in Roman Holiday, Joe and Princess Anne, like they, you know, there's this web of, you know, them of benign deceit, but also just kind of taking a while to realize in some ways who exactly the other is throughout. I mean, for Anne, it takes the whole movie.
Right.
Whereas in Pretty Woman, the differences that Edward and Vivian see in each other are evident right away, and they engage with them directly throughout. And so, I mean, I think we're getting a little bit into it already, but just to put it up front, how are we interpreting the ways in which this film engages with class difference between its main characters?
Her mannerisms. I think how she exaggerates her vowels and her body language and her toughness. And like you can tell that she's making very distinct acting choices on making her seem as low class as she possibly can. And but sometimes, and I love Julia Roberts, but it's like sometimes you could tell it's like, oh, in this moment I'm now going to act low class, and then the rest of it kind of, because you could tell how natural it was for her at the end to kind of like be this more esteemed person.
Yeah.
It almost felt like there were moments where it's like, oh, I have to remind myself that I'm this character that's from, you know, a certain background. But I'm like, hey, we're talking about like a 22-year-old actress that's doing great work and she's doing awesome. But I did notice that of like, oh, we have to make sure that it feels like this at the beginning, and she's doing her best to do so.
I felt that too. I'm glad it wasn't just me.
Me three.
Yeah. Okay.
On that. Yeah. Cause that moment where she's like, has to spit her gum out before they go and he takes her into the store. And you're just like, okay, wait a minute. Like there are like puzzling little
She didn't go
moments
method, you know,
but
not
also
Meryl Streep.
like the trope throughout the movie of whether it I think it's only Edward who does this, but him telling her to stop fidgeting.
Yeah, that drives me a little crazy as a fidgeter.
I gotta notice, or I have to
was
admit,
that from My Fair Lady? Did she fidget? Is that where it's from?
I don't know that it was.
I can't remember that.
Yeah.
It feels like it would
Or like
be.
sit up straight or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it's a lot about posture
Yeah.
and like how you're holding yourself.
It takes me a lot to laugh out loud, but I don't remember the scene, so I was watching it for the first time, but the dinner scene where she goes to dinner and she's having problems with like the fork and all of that. So funny.
I wanted to
So
bring that
funny.
up as a class moment.
and at moments like that, I mean, whether you like it or not, these are moments when the movie is heavy-handed when it comes to like illustrating this class difference. Any time that, you know, that Vivian is either being told or seeking out, how do I do this thing to fit in more with the upper crusty people?
Yeah.
I mean, this is just 2 years. So Garry Marshall directs this movie that comes out in 1990. It's just 2 years before his sister, Penny Marshall, directs A League of Their Own, which has that very memorable charm school scene in the first act too.
That's true.
And I think, I mean,
sip, don't slip.
yeah, it's interesting to see those so close together. I mean, I would argue, I imagine I'm in good company here, that A League of Their Own handles that a little better.
And Princess Diaries also had that.
Oh
scene.
yeah, Princess Diaries has like a whole montage of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I ever saw the whole thing with Princess Diaries, but I got the gist
It's
minus
a
that.
good movie.
It's fun.
It's
We
my
should do
favorite
Princess
in Half-Life.
Diaries.
I'm down to do that one if you guys want.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very enjoyable.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like a league of their own. I mean, you're going in knowing that there's this feminist angle, and I think that movie does a great job of situating that kind of thing a little more critically, and especially it being a period piece in the context of 1942.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas in Pretty Woman, I mean, I don't think that it's handled like totally without care here, but I think it's not as multidimensional as you see in that case.
I want to make an argument for something that breaks through class
Mm-hmm.
in this. So I think the Hector Elizondo character is meant to be the person, the flesh and blood person that is meant to kind of bridge
Absolutely.
Bridge that.
Yeah.
Because
in
he
many respects.
recognizes the position that she's at.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it does not seem to be his first time encountering a woman in this position.
Right.
And
right.
he has a surprising amount of empathy
Right.
for her.
And I love that it starts, I think, motivated by money,
Yeah.
because he's like, Edward, big spender.
Yeah.
I'm here to take care of
It's
the
like,
big spenders.
Yeah, my job is to make sure those guys get what they want,
they
and
want.
he wants you. So
Right, exactly. But I think the movie does, I think, kind of a sweet job of rolling out his character. I mean, maybe some of the details around it, we could argue with those definitely. But I think just within the story, like the journey his character takes, I think is kind of sweet. The real one for me though, that really hit me this time, and I was like, wow, like that's actually really smart, is the way these characters speak to one another. I'm talking Julia Roberts and Richard Gere. There's a lot of parallel dialogue where they really parallel each other's mannerisms and how they speak. One that really jumps out is when she wakes up and she points to her head and she's like, red, and he goes to her, better. There's a directness that really happens to these characters. And then another one that I think is really famous from the movie is when he shows up to take her to the date, and there's the reveal that she looks great in this dress, and she's like, you're late, and he's like, you're stunning.
And she's like, you're forgiven.
You're forgiven. And I think the movie does it like kind of over and over again. He might come from a lot of money and he might have this super high powered job, and she is quite the opposite, but the two of them share a directness
Communication
that I think,
style.
Yeah. And I think, Sydney, you were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the characteristics that's kind of sweet and endearing about Vivian. She is able to do that. She has that one moment where she feels like she can't really get one over when she goes, to try to get the dress or whatever. I was so ready for that moment to just fall flat.
Yeah.
When she goes back and she's like, you work on commission, right?
Yeah.
Big mistake.
Huge.
It worked.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a fun moment there.
Yeah, if you're
Love
gonna
it.
if you're gonna talk about how this movie discusses and touches on class, like that's the
It
most
did it.
famous scene from this movie.
Yeah.
Is her not being helped and then going back and kind of getting her revenge on that.
Yeah.
Like that's the main thing I think that people remember about this movie. And so, she's entering the store and she's for the first time and she's immediately just being judged from the second she walks in the door. They're like, this woman doesn't belong here purely because of how she's dressed, how she holds herself. So that's the most obvious, way this movie is touching on class. But it is interesting that like, oh, well, the solution is just get money.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like we're like not really
Right.
reckoning with like, okay, so these women should feel bad because the next day she's going to be able to come in and spend a bunch of money.
Right.
But
She could
actually
come
they
in
just
dressed the same, and
they actually should just treat human
That's
beings
true
like
equality.
human beings
Yeah.
and not just like pocketbooks.
Yeah.
or
And I think
whatever.
her empowerment, that's what I loved about throughout was her communication style and her empowerment, because it was also a reminder to me to like, I am not that direct in my communication when it
Right,
comes to
right.
like, I've walked into a store where they're like, what are you doing in here? And then like, I've never been direct in communication of like, no, I am just as empowered no matter my race, class, identity. I'm trying to find that agency. And it was fun to watch her just like gallop in it.
Yeah.
And whether it's some big billionaire or not, she just was like, I am going to speak up for myself. And
Yeah.
I think that's what people really connect with Julia Roberts' character.
Yeah.
I love what you just said there, because I actually think it's more reflective of real life that you go into a place like that. And yes, it's money. Sometimes in life, you kind of need that thing that maybe you didn't hope that you wanted
Yeah.
to like
a little
to get there.
audacity, a little sprinkle of white privilege. Like she's
sure,
she still exists in that because it's like, if a sex worker even looked different, even if her friend, what was Vivian's friend? Yeah,
Kit,
she can't exist like that. So it's like the privilege that she has and that she knows she has, that like you still have to be brought up. Let's say she's like from the outskirts of a farm or whatever. That rough and tumble, like she still finds that agency. She still has it. She doesn't learn it throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's true. That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to something you said, Madeline, about non-reckoning in the movie, that made me think a little bit more about what we see also, like in terms of class, what we see on the Edward side of things too. Because I thought about this job that he works, that, the movie's not particularly critical of, like maybe via Vivian, the Julia Roberts character, there's some criticism, but I feel like on the whole, the movie's not too critical of the job that he works.
He's the death of capitalism. He's still this big merger and acquisitions guy. Yeah. He's destroying companies.
And so Edward strikes up this contract with Jim Morse, the Ralph Bellamy character, a great 2-scene performance. And he's the owner of a shipbuilding company, and they're talking about building destroyers or something like that.
Yeah, like a Navy contract.
Right. War machines.
Yeah.
And so, the movie doesn't really seem to show any critique of that. Another movie that it's progressive in its own way, but I felt like a similar strand of criticism was, we discussed it not on our podcast, but with our friends on Down the Yellow Brick Pod, Crazy Rich Asians. I feel like
which is on the back of this book of yours.
Yes, on the back cover of Falling in Love at the Movies.
Very cute movie, but yes to that point.
Yes. Yeah. So that was one thing I came away from it thinking exactly like you said it, Sydney. Like, well, this is fun, but what about that? And that's part of the reason
you gain that much money.
And that's part of the reason why I'm a big fan of Anora, is that it has a much more incisive view about that sort of thing. That it's not like, that this is not going to be like some kind of
this isn't a Disney princess, because even the Disney princess's dad also tariffs the peasants down below. That is Aladdin's family.
Yeah. And strangely, even though Anora deals with a very similar dynamic of class divide with its characters, I think that movie does not feel heavy-handed in a way that Pretty Woman does.
Well, I think people still love escapism. I mean, we'll always want it. I mean, life is so hard. There's something so, fantasy of like, let me just escape from like two poor people falling in love to like, what if a princess in a castle gets whisked away by a billionaire and, they get to have some lavish wedding where there's lily pads on the floor. Like, it's kind of like watching reality television. It's like, how does somebody else live that I don't get to exist in? Yes. So I get it.
Also, I mean, with all due criticism, like I think this movie is generally well directed, and I like Garry Marshall, but I think that he knows he's making I don't even want to say lighter, but that there's like a wish fulfillment entertainment.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I actually would say I know he knows he was making a lighter movie because this, as we said before, this was supposed to be a really dark, gritty movie that ended really badly for the Julia Roberts character.
Yeah.
So
I almost want to see that version.
I would be interested in seeing it too.
Also, something I forgot to say too, I feel like a Debbie Downer with this movie. It is 1990, and all of the Black and brown people were not only service workers, but like the most low class service workers. The
limousine drivers,
and not even the elevator guy, but like the front desk bellhop. It's like very silent, almost didn't even exist in this world.
Sure.
And I don't know, it just really, I think more about like casting now as being in the industry or trying to be. And you're like, wow, it was 1990 and we couldn't even put someone as a front desk.
Yeah, it's like that. The way that LA looks in this movie is not how LA looked in 1990 when it comes to the people that you see on screen.
Yeah. Right. Yep. You get like little touches of it, like at the beginning and end of the movie, but it's only a little bit.
Right.
I would even argue to say that character, you could look through the lens as like
the magical Negro.
I didn't want to.
No, I was going to say it for y'all later.
Like, it really kind of is.
There's an astronomy club sketch where they talk about, they have a magical Negro group therapy session
Yeah.
where there are all these people that come in at the beginning and teach the white people what they're going to learn and then mystically come in at the end, or like all the people that like they learn a lesson, like the guy in Green Mile was there and the guy from Pretty Woman, that like all these people
Legend
like
of Bagger Vance or whatever.
yeah. So
Yeah, it's like, and you know, when you think about like what it must be like on the set to portray those characters, I mean, it's very hard to imagine there's not some of that awkwardness that you experience in like thinking about the trope.
Yeah.
It's like whenever a movie like shows that, I always wonder like, what was that like on set?
Yeah. It's like, you're going to walk in like this, and then we're going to get to the real movie that's separate from your experience of being in the movie.
Yeah. Oh, are we ready to talk about little details that we enjoyed in Pretty Woman?
Oh, big time.
Ooh, yeah.
One moment in the movie where you do get, it's not that the movie is making fun of itself, but that a character is kind of making fun of what's going on in the movies. You don't see very much of Kit throughout, but when you do, I enjoy her as a character when she's there. And that scene towards the end where she's showing up to, I think, to pick up the money from the front desk. And she's like loudly chewing the gum, and she's like talking to other people in the room, she knows she's creating a disturbance. And I forget exactly what the quantities are that she's saying to like, it's like, I'll offer you this much, and then to his wife, like, and this much to watch.
Yeah. She's a fun character in the movie, you know,
I like her presence.
She also has that agency too that I do like. That empowerment of like, no, I'm here and I'm proud. Like, I need more.
And you can tell that Vivian has partially learned some of that from Kit.
Right.
She's talked about how she met Kit, and Kit's the one that really introduced her to this work and helped her get familiar and like kind of showed her the ropes. And so you can tell that like the two of them are kind of like a team.
Yeah. But you also get a sense in the beginning that like Kit may be losing a little bit of that.
She's not super reliable.
Well, yeah. And that maybe she's kind of falling out of the kinds of habits that Vivian got from her to begin with.
Yeah.
I want to mention one character that just cracks me up. Larry Miller.
I love Larry Miller in this.
He is fantastic.
He's the clothing store manager. When Richard Gere takes her.
Yes.
And so
the hairdresser in
the Princess Diaries. But yeah, he's so great in that because I love the part where Richard Gere is like, "Oh, you need to suck up to us.
This is mine." I love it.
And Larry Miller starts sucking up to him and is like, "You're a very handsome man." And she's like, "No,
tell that.
so
Her.
cute."
Yeah, exactly.
Is he there in the scene where the pizza gets ordered?
Exactly.
Too?
That's and who ordered pizza?
Yeah.
That
he was great.
It like really funny work, and it's that moment in particular that I love. Is like he's like, oh, okay, I got to turn it on for this guy now too. It's so hilarious. I think the movie's having fun with this primarily, but I think there's a little bit of an indictment of that line of work.
Yeah,
how much this guy feels like he has to like sell himself out constantly to people who have money. I found hilarious.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like sort of given this lip service before, but to point it out directly, the tone shift as the opening credits roll, as you know, as Edward is coming down from this mountaintop gala.
Love that song, by the way.
Yeah, this gala that he's at, and as you come down the hill, there's there's a song change, and then as you know, you're going through Hollywood itself, and you see the world that Vivian is a part of. I think that's one thing the movie does really well, is establishing that tone shift. At the beginning. And then, as this first part of the movie, the part that I like the best goes along. I just think I guess it's kind of a given in this discussion, but there are a lot of great little acting moments from Julia Roberts
that are so beautiful.
Yeah, like the mixture of like her quiet moments and her kind of believably loud moments too. Like one of those that I like is the scene when she's watching TV and chuckling along to it. Yeah. That felt like very genuine. That scene.
I kept reading that Garry Marshall had to tickle her feet in filming to get her to laugh that much. And I'm like, that can't be true. That's a crazy thing to do on set. Yeah. That's insane.
That's a little Quentin right there.
Definitely. I don't know if that's true, but I kept reading that where it's like to get
something.
A genuine laugh out of her, he was tickling her feet.
Yeah.
I wanted to point out a couple other little moments. The Hector Elizondo encounter that she has when she realizes, he's actually going to try to help her out. There's that back and forth they have where he's like, and you are, and then their like faces start to dip down, and he's like, cousin.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah,
are.
great.
And the back and forth, and that's really fun.
Okay, I have a couple of things. So he's downstairs playing the piano, and like they're just like folding napkins. And as a service worker, I'm like, if I was folding napkins and they're like, leave so we can have sex, I'd be like, what in the hell?
I'm
you
doing my job.
I'd be like, no, you need to leave, my guy. Because I gotta wipe up the piano afterwards. Like, it was just I always like, especially when it comes to character work, it's like, then my brain goes, the napkin folder during Pretty Woman. It's like that character's there because you have this fun, unusual perspective of it. And then my favorite part of the movie was definitely the fashion, especially her look at the end and how it transformed. And she had that classic like 1980s high waist look with the button down. Like, I would wear every single outfit. And I even loved the outfit in the beginning of the white and the blue. It's so iconic.
It kind of is. Yeah. I know what you mean.
I mean, it's like crochet with like a clip. I don't even know.
You could definitely still see someone wearing that today.
But all of the outfits, just like the references to My Fair Lady and all of these things, like it's just all of the outfits like really told the story itself.
Yeah.
So I loved that polka dotted dress.
The polka dot dress. And the hat with the ribbon.
Oh my God. It's
I think that's probably like the coolest that she looks in that movie.
Yes, that was the chicest she looked, and then she had that beautiful moment with the son of the Navy guy
Ralph
at the
Norman
horse.
character.
It was just a beautiful shot. I was like, they should get together. Which then he
the
becomes
movie
jealous.
Kinda, like suggests maybe that.
They looked straight out of a Ralph Lauren ad. I was like, she had the polka
yeah.
dotted dress, and he was in like the thing. I was like, oh my God, actually, they look good together. Yeah,
totally. You were talking about the piano scene. Richard Gere playing his own piano.
Oh, true.
And wrote the piece.
Yes.
Oh.
Which is very cool.
Nice.
Makes me think about that piano scene in Black Christmas where like I don't think the piece was written there, but it's kind of like this thing that they like that just feels strange in the context of the movie, but as musicians we can watch and think like, I'm digging this.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, totally.
And also, like with that piano scene, I had to think too that, like, well, we haven't said anything about how Vivian lays out this rule early in the movie that she'll do on a job basically anything except kiss on the mouth because that's too personal. Mm-hmm. But that when those moments when Vivian and Edward do finally kiss come, I thought that whatever you think about the movie as it goes along, those moments I thought felt earned.
Oh, yeah.
Well acted and sincere.
Yes.
And I really kind of forgot about the context in those moments too because of how genuine they are.
Yeah,
for sure.
True, two great actors.
Yeah.
The very last thing I want to say here is that these two movies have one huge thing in common, which is there is a candid moment that was improvised on set.
Yes.
That is almost like moment for moment identical, which is you talked about the mouth of truth.
Yes.
That moment where
the necklace,
sticks his, and the necklace, and both of those scenes were improvised on set, and the reactions that
from the women
are completely honest. And I think they're two of the most iconic moments from the films. Both of them.
I was trying to figure out. I was like, where was the mouth of truth? I was like, oh my God, it's literally the necklace. Yeah.
That's what it is.
There's a scene in one of the National Treasure movies where Nicolas Cage basically does the same gag with that Gregory Peck does with the mouth of truth with a different thing. But I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. It must have been lifted.
Want to get into some unlikely shared universe?
I believe so.
Totally.
So
anybody want to start this off?
I can start it if you guys don't mind.
Sure.
I'll jump right in here.
I loved this section because I was like, wait, there's so many connections I didn't know. Okay, I'm ready for it.
Buckle up.
All right. I'm pretty proud of this one.
Oh,
I like
fun.
This one. All right. So the last we see of Anne, she is back on the royal press circuit, assuming her princess duties, but perhaps with a renewed sense of self and emboldened to look out for her needs a little bit more from here on out. We see that she stands up for herself and she lays out the business to her handlers and her confidants there that from now on, things are going to be different. If she's going to stay a princess, going to be some changing around here. She realizes that her 36 hours with Joe were not really the foundation for a great lasting relationship. So she does what she can to forget about him, but quietly plots her next getaway. One that she's able to orchestrate with a little more help and resources this time. Anne gets a tip that there's a young woman with the last name Fairchild who bears a striking resemblance to her. Fairchild is visiting France from the United States for a few years, studying at Le Cordon Bleu. Seeing that Fairchild has ties to the Larrabees, a wealthy family of influence from across the pond, and that her extended time away would allow for slight physical differences to easily be explained away. Anne sees this as a perfect setup for a little Princess and the Pauper style switcheroo, convincing her superiors that it can be a way to slowly make inroads on a relationship with the American elite, and switches roles with the young Fairchild woman, instating her as the princess without any real power for a short while, and impersonates the Fairchild lady when she returns to America. She thinks that she might have found romance again with David Larrabee, the young, handsome heir to the Larrabee name, but it's his older brother Linus that she develops a growing admiration for. Will this budding romance be what keeps her from returning in a timely fashion to her royal post for a second time? Perhaps this time for good? Do we know what movie this is?
It's been well documented by now that I haven't seen it, but sounds like My Fair Lady.
No,
Ooh, no.
That's a good guess, I think.
It is a good guess.
Okay.
There are definitely things in this that would make someone think My Fair Lady.
Yes.
Okay, well then I am stumped this time.
Yeah, me too. I thought it was My Fair Lady.
This is Sabrina.
This is Sabrina.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah. We just recently talked about Billy Wilder, so ever since we talked about The Apartment, that's been higher on my list as something to get to.
Mhm. I need
It's
to
very
rewatch.
fun. If you enjoy Roman Holiday, this is like just a continuation of like, let's
Yeah.
put beautiful people on screen, really well written, fun characters, like will they, won't they? It's
Yeah.
a perfectly
It's a
fun
delight.
movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely is.
And Billy Wilder is so good at just doing these kind of strange experiments within the studio mold too. So yeah. I'm sure that's going to be a great time.
Nice.
All right. Well, I've got another story I can keep us going with. Yours was connected to Roman Holiday. Mine will go back to Pretty Woman. So the Kit DeLuca we know is the best friend and confidant of Vivian Ward in their shared experience as sex workers in Hollywood. Kit's reliability in this phase of her life exists in response to a web of deceit in which she was involved in her former life in Louisiana, where she was known by her birth name, Cynthia Bishop. Cynthia was always the freer spirit compared to her buttoned-up sister Anne, married young to a man named John, while Cynthia worked as a bartender in their hometown of Baton Rouge. Whilst in this arrangement, Cynthia would begin an affair with Anne's husband, John, which itself would be subjected to an interesting twist with a visit from John's old friend, Graham. Out of work and looking to pave a new path for himself, Graham would accept the help of John and Anne in finding some stability in Baton Rouge. And while helping Graham move into a new apartment, Anne would find a supply of cassettes belonging to him, which he claims contain sexual confessionals from various women. Anne would initially find this disconcerting and vent to Cynthia about her experience, hoping for some mutual understanding. But to the contrary, Cynthia would actually find Graham's proclivity kind of enticing and set out and set out to see for herself just what this guy Graham is up to. After getting some answers, Cynthia's affair with John would be uncovered by Anne, leading to a period of those two, Cynthia and Anne, not speaking with one another. But after this series of many inciting incidents, Cynthia and Anne would reconcile, and Cynthia would then reconsider her prospects as a single bartender in Baton Rouge. Subsequently, she would desire to reinvent herself and move to Los Angeles. And while she may hope for something more permanent in the long run, she resorts to sex work to get by in the meantime. And in this situation, atones for her mistakes with her sister by becoming a reliable companion to her friend Vivian, taking on the pseudonym Kit DeLuca as all this happens. So Cynthia, or Kit's story, is one that clearly has to do with sex, and in her line of work,
And some lies.
probably the occasional lie. But while her life in LA may not suggest it, at least that we know of, it also once involved, and maybe could involve again, videotape.
Yep.
Videotape. Okay.
Sex, lies, and videotape.
Yeah.
Yep.
I am sure. So Laura San Giacomo is the actor who plays Kit in Pretty Woman, and Cynthia Bishop in Sex, Lies, and Videotape. I'm sure that she got this role off of the success of Sex, Lies, and Videotape.
My understanding is that is the case.
Well, I guess it's my turn. And I will say this one's going to be pretty easy because we've referenced this movie many times in this episode. Garry Marshall may not be a director who we associate with players beyond huge stars like Julia Roberts, but this movie has not one or two or even three, but four actors that go on to a major franchise of his. And so I would like to focus on our hotel manager, Barney, played by Hector Elizondo. The Regent Beverly Wilshire Hotel is pretty swanky, and perhaps on occasion it has even hosted royalty. His job is to take care of the big spenders. So when the Queen of Genovia reserves the penthouse, he does everything in his power to tighten security and cater to her needs. The Queen immediately recognizes his competence and discretion, and she asks him, "Will you return to Genovia with me as my head of security?" Barney is reluctant to leave his employees of the Regent without his guidance. And so his one condition to the Queen is for him to be able to bring along his front desk clerk with him for some reason. And the Queen agrees to this and hires the front desk clerk as her personal assistant, playing to the skills that she built at the Regent front desk. Whenever this crew returns to the States and needs assistance in the world of beauty and fashion, they call on Barney's friend, Mr. Hollister, who he came to know after he assisted Vivian during her shopping spree. He gives Mia Thermopolis her iconic makeover, and that, you'll notice, is only 3. And I said there are 4. And perhaps some of you read this because it was on Wikipedia, but the gentleman, when they're at the dinner in Pretty Woman, and Vivian flings a snail, and it's like caught by a guy, and he's like, it happens all the time.
I love that line.
Not only is that guy in the Princess Diaries and the Princess Diaries 2 Royal Engagement, he has these same lines. Clearly it happens all the time. It's happened to him at least 3 times.
Him saying that line happens all the time
Exactly.
too.
So
He's very cheeky. He's very cheeky.
The second time I have done an unlikely shared universe where I've connected Hector Elizondo
I was
to
gonna
the
say,
Princess Diaries.
is he also the robber from the Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3?
Perhaps.
Who happened to actually, move into a hotel hospitality?
He needed a new gig after
he really did.
train jacking didn't work out.
Guys, well, we did it.
Yeah.
We did it. We talked these 2 movies.
Absolutely. Any quick final thoughts we want to say?
I think it's interesting that like the older and more enshrined movie is in my opinion the quirkier one of these 2. But yeah, I think like Roman Holiday, A+, perfect movie to me. Pretty Woman, not a perfect movie, but interesting to talk about, has some real strengths, some weaknesses too. But I think, sometimes standing the test of time doesn't have to be because a movie has unqualified greatness. It can be because it has a mix of the 2.
Or starts a discussion.
Exactly.
Totally.
As we've just
Which
had.
is kind of what I thought would happen.
But yeah, I'm glad we had this discussion.
Cool. Yeah.
Totally. I mean, I will probably rewatch Roman Holiday every few years, like for the rest of my life, because I love that movie and I've loved it most of my
I
life.
think that'll be me with Princess Diaries.
Yeah,
I brought it up
too.
in Princess Diaries.
Yeah, I mean, this movie, rewatching Pretty Woman, really just made me want to rewatch Princess Diaries. I can't wait to do that. I mean, I enjoyed Pretty Woman. I don't see myself revisiting Pretty Woman for any particular reason in the future.
I kind of don't either, to be honest.
But I'm glad that I watched it because I hadn't seen it since I was like 15 and I really had no solid memories of it. Now I feel like I get what this movie was about. I can talk about this movie and now I can move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of feel the same. I don't know if I'm going to be interested in seeing that movie again, but I appreciated getting to see it now, having had all the exposure I've had to other films, and because I did think I remember the caricature of the movie from back in the day, and I feel like I have a little bit more of a nuanced look at it, where I'm like, oh, I see the things it does well, I see the things that have still not aged particularly great, but yeah, interesting movies, I think, where you have these really transcendent actresses really blossom and show up. So.
That's what I take away from it is we got to watch the launch of Julia Roberts. I really love, and even Audrey Hepburn does this as well. It's like, what do you do with the lines on the page? How do you get it to jump off and make it your own and you're unique? Like, they're unique in it. It's not that she did it perfectly. There is no perfect. It's what she added to it that made it like, whoa, like if Julia Roberts in a movie, we can't wait to see her take on this character. What can you uniquely do that can be your brand and your stamp and what you say and how you say it?
Yeah.
I love that. Very cool.
Yeah. Well, just what if Princess Anne from Roman Holiday, what if the country she's from is Genovia?
We've been We've been
dancing around
circling
this.
that the whole time.
The land I call my own.
Yeah. Very cool.
So next time you hear from us, we're going to be rounding out our Oscar-worthy rom-com cycle.
And when it comes to Oscar-worthy rom-coms, there were some pretty interesting candidates that came up when we were discussing this. I think after some deliberation, though, one name jumped out in particular that I think we're going to have a lot of fun talking about, and that is Neil Simon. He is one of the more celebrated playwrights of his generation, and his sensibilities transitioned from theater to film quite well. And he's got some notable Oscar-nominated rom-coms to his name. So we're going to start by first looking at Barefoot in the Park, which was released in 1967. It stars very fresh-faced actors Jane Fonda and Robert Redford, and he adapted his play for the screen when he did that. So that's the first movie we'll talk about, but we're also going to talk about The Heartbreak Kid, which is like the proto-cringe humor Elaine May directed rom-com starring Charles Grodin, Sybil Shepherd, and hey, what do you know? Eddie Albert from Mormon Holiday. And we're going to round off our talk by talking about The Goodbye Girl, which is a film of his that was very successful when it came out in 1977. It was directed by Herbert Ross and landed Richard Dreyfuss his Best Acting Oscar, which at the time he was the youngest recipient of that award. So,
to be beaten by Adrian Brody.
But next time you hear us on mics, we will be talking Neil Simon.
Yeah. I'm excited because as many different close-ups as we've done, we've talked about directors, actors, musicians. We haven't talked about a screenwriter yet. So
Totally.
I think we're due.
I'm very excited. Barefoot in the Park is one of my mom's all-time favorite movies. So I'll be excited to revisit that. Excited to revisit The Heartbreak Kid, and I've never seen The Goodbye Girl. So
Same.
I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of them.
All right. Well, you're in for a treat. Sydney, thank you so much for coming back.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you,
I always
Sydney.
love good chit chat.
Yeah.
Yay.
Where can the people find you, and is there anything you'd like to plug?
Yes. Oh my gosh. You can find me on IG and TikTok at Sydney Duncan Onum. So my name, SYDNEY, Duncan, DUNCANONEM. So I'm tall. I'm Duncan Onum.
Yeah.
And I always post all my shows there. You can also see what monthly shows I have at UCB. My first mod show of the season's coming up. And Betty is coming up. I'm doing a silent character this time around.
That's very exciting.
I was like, I want to do something different. So I'm doing a silent ballet piece about Sleeping Beauty waking up in 2026.
That sounds
wow.
Yeah,
interesting.
it's very ambitious of me because I'm like, I haven't danced in years and here I am. But yeah, I always love to do character pieces that kind of have a look at the world. So if you're interested in character work or improv or sketch a character, I'm around.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Well, in addition to this podcast, you can follow us on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at the handle Sleepless Cinematic Pod. You can also contact us via email. We would love to hear from you. So write to us at sleeplesscinematicpod@gmail.com. If you're on Letterboxd, you cannot follow me, but you can follow my other co-hosts. What are your handles?
You can follow me, Julian, at Julian_Barthold.
And you can follow me, Madeline, at Patroness of Cats. If you are listening to us for the first time, thank you for finding us. If this is the 7th or 8th or 80th time you've listened to us, thank you for sticking with us. We've really grown to love doing this, and it means the world to have our budding listenership grow.
And if you haven't already, we ask you, return listener, to please write us a positive review and rate us on your podcast platform of choice. This is one of the best ways for new listeners to find us and help our podcast take its next steps. You can also keep it grassroots and tell a friend to tell a friend about the Sleepless Cinematic Podcast. That helps too. Well, I enjoyed that more than the Pirates of Penzance.